Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the fourth round of 10 for the ASR Supercars Championship in 2021, proudly brought to you by Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions. It's the return of the paperclip, a circuit we did not visit last year on the Supercars calendar. It did get a run in the Porsche Cup in the second half of last year, but it's a circuit we have not been to since 2019, and as you'll see a little bit later on, it's a circuit you've got to go all the way back to our very beginning in 2018 to find the track records, which might yet tumble tonight. Speaking of tumbling, what did tumble is Will Devenish from the top of the point standings after a disastrous Phillip Island round 3 weeks ago. He finds himself with a bit of a battle ahead. Is it time tonight for the standings to be turned on their head yet again? Or is there a little bit more of a twist in the tail as we run through the events on this year's calendar? My name is Steve DeVries, and filling in rather admirably for the voice of Supercars, with the encyclopedia that we call Supercars here, Hans Brunswick, it's Michael Zalavari. Good evening, mate.
Good evening, Steve. Good evening, everyone. I am happy to be here. Ipswich is, I'll be honest, not one of my favorite tracks, but with the size of this field tonight, it is going to be a frantic double 100-kilometer race, pair of races this evening, and I'm extremely looking forward to it.
Me too. This is a track, as we just said before, a place we have not visited for 2 years of Supercars, so a few drivers feeling a little bit, I guess, not really in the zone at the moment. There's plenty of head scratching up and down the field as to what they need to do to get these cars right to go around this circuit. Most of the setups they would have had from 2 years ago pretty much do not apply because the standard of driving has just been elevated year on year on year in the championship. So to come to a circuit where you haven't run for 2 years, it sort of gets your heart sort of racing a little bit as to whether or not you're going to be on the pace, because as we've been watching throughout practice, the margins are incredibly tight.
Yeah, just for the people at home who can't quite see the numbers that we can see at the moment, from 6th place all the way through to 12th, it's separated by 1/10 of a second. And that is only less than half a second away from the absolute outright pace that a few guys are finishing up on their qualifying sims just as practice comes to a close. So it is extremely tight margins. In fact, most of the field is within at least most of the field 1 second, 1.5 seconds. So there's incredibly tight margins at this point. And yeah, at a track this small as well, there's quite a lot of opportunity for chaos. We'll put it that way.
Yes, you're spot on. And I mean, we saw this in Porsche Cup last year as well. Chaos can occur at places like this. Thankfully, there is a fair bit of runoff area where a lot of it can be avoided. There's the escape roads as well. So there is a few bailout options if there is any sort of calamitous incidents. But this circuit pretty much fits into the same sort of ballpark as the likes of Barbagallo, which is our next stop on the calendar, and Symmons Plains, which we had as the second round on the calendar. Very, very short circuit, very few corners, margins always very, very tight. And, you know, even in cases like you were just mentioning, 1/10 of a second can mean the difference between starting in 10th and starting in 6th or 7th in some of these occasions. You know, you find that much time, the order changes so rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. And those tiny margins can mean big swings in the championship. I don't know about you, Nether, but when I'm coming from 10th, 11th, 12th on the grid, it's much harder to sort of get in the right headspace to make moves cleanly and effectively because you're panicking by losing just that much time. Because, you know, 12th on the grid, you're going to be 3, 4, 5 seconds away by the end of the first lap, just because that's how the first lap goes. So if someone, one of the big players, say a Scott Nolan or a Brendan Foley, has a poor qualifying lap, you could see them be stuck in the mid-pack and not get out.
Yeah, spot on. Well, speaking of the track, let's go and have a look at our track overview, thanks to Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions, and it's our first trip into Queensland. We go towards the Brisbane Central Business District, out to the west, towards Ipswich, and just south of the city of Ipswich, we find this little track. They've tried to get some things through to extend the track in years gone past. They haven't been successful, so it retains its 6-turn, 4 straight layout of approximately 3.126 kilometres. 2 races tonight, 32 laps the distance for each race, and as you can see on your screens there, Flood, the track record all the way back in 2018, the first year of existence for what was then AMS Oz, was now known as ASR, and Ethan Warren, who was a very quick peddler back then, still is a very quick peddler over at ASC, has the track records to his name. They might yet go tonight.
Yeah, just based on the practice times that we're seeing at the moment, they're going to be mighty close. It is a little bit of an enigma, Ipswich. It's called the paperclip, of course, so you can kind of see why that is. But despite being 6 corners and not really having too much elevation change, there is enough of a difference in each of these corners to really set up some difficult cornering and difficult passing opportunities. But on the other hand, it does look like a little bit of a boring track on paper. It's one of those real enigmas. Sometimes you can have fantastic racing here, and with 25 cars in the server at the moment, hopefully we see some of that tonight. But sometimes it can be a bit of procession. So we definitely hope for the former, and we will see this 3.1 kilometer circuit turn into hopefully a bit of a bull ring.
Well, it looks like a bull ring there as well. I mean, it's pretty close to being in a circle formation. There is a joining road that comes off at the exit of turn 3 and then links all the way back to turn 6. So, if you cut that middle in section out, it can look like a bit of a bull ring. But your point exactly to do with the turns here. As you can see there, turn 1 is not quite 90 degrees. Turn 2 is more than 90 degrees, both going to the right. 4 right-handers here, 2 left-handers, and all different shapes. So, you can see that turn 3 on the screen there, the ASR Mustang sort of looks for a different type of line through the corner. So sometimes you might try and hug the inside all the way through. Sometimes you might go a bit deeper in the braking zone, look for a bit of a late apex. This turn coming up here, it's especially good for a late apex one. Those turns that are slightly more than a 90-degree corner, you late apex those turns, you get much better drive out of them. Gives you a much better run towards the next corner. And then, of course, the final turn is essentially a slow-speed hairpin. It is the slowest one on the circuit, and then trying to apply the power out of that part of the circuit is very, very important because it gives you the run up the front straight and to continue the lap. Laps go quick. They are not as quick as the likes of Simmons and Barbagallo, which are in the low to mid 50-second range. The lap times tonight, minute 7s through to minute 10s is what we're seeing most of the field doing. But still, they will go pretty quickly, and the drivers are going to have probably about a 35 to 40 minute battle on their hands tonight, plus the pit stop, of course.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, but there's 2 tyre compounds in this series, correct?
There is 2 tyre compounds. There is no obligation to use them both, though. So it is purely a strategical choice. And like the GT3 racing that we've seen and we've got coming up in a week's time from Laguna Seca, the strategy has been changed a little bit by increasing the distance of the races from last year to this year. So 90-kilometre sprint races last year was making the stops a little bit too easy to sort of split down the middle and get home. And this year, having raised the distance to 100 kilometres, which means you get about an extra 3 or 4 laps for some circuits, that means that you've got to think a little bit more, because sometimes, as we've seen at a couple of tracks already, the tyres may not make it home if you go a little bit too early.
Yeah, I was having a bit of a chat to a few of the drivers, because I cut some laps earlier tonight on my Switch controller. What a horrible experience it was with no TC in these cars. But especially on the left side, because you've got those long loaded right-handers for the first sector, and then the 2 hairpins as well. The left side tires get an absolute torturing. And I was musing with a few of the people, a few of the drivers about how long they can go on the soft tires, and 1 or 2 of them said that soft tires can just make it on a single stop. So, and that's assuming a new set of softs goes onto the car. So it might be the case that someone has to put the hard tires on in order to cut out the second pit stop. So it will be intriguing to see how that plays out, and we'll try and keep you abreast of what tyres we think everyone's on based on their lap times, but that's certainly a complicating factor, especially on the left side here. They take a real hammering.
They definitely do. And the window that I'm hearing out there is that it's a very fine window to make that one stop work. Maybe like a 2, possibly 3 lap sort of window that you have to come in if you want to make it on the one stop. You come a little bit too early or you go a little bit too late, you're either going to end up having to stop again or you're going to have a puncture and have to find a way back around to the start of the front straight and get into the pits. Now I'm just seeing out there at the moment that qualifying has started counting down, and I believe we have got some live pictures that we're looking for at the moment, and just waiting to see. I think there might be 1 or 2 guys just a little bit late to drivers briefing, and we're just waiting to see those guys reappear, and we'll be going to qualifying in just a few moments. So tonight, 4th round, races 7 and 8 of the championship out of 20. So we are over the 1/4 distance mark. The halfway point will come at the end of the next round in approximately 3 weeks at Barbagallo. So for those of you playing at home, that is going to be on the 11th of June. Which will be round 5, and then the remaining rounds in the championship. We've got Darwin up there at Hidden Valley. There is a trip to Sydney Motorsport Park. There's Retro Round at Calder Park. There is the finale that is going to be at Townsville. And the final race just escapes me from memory as to where that one is going to be, but there is one more still on the list to do. Still just waiting for a few live pictures to get sorted out here. Looks like we do have a number of drivers that are just sort of flying their way through the order. We can now officially go to live pictures for qualifying for what will be race 7 of the championship, or the first race of the day today.
Just to close off the loop for you there, Stephen, the penultimate round of the championship will be at Pukekohe Park.
There you go. I knew I was forgetting our cousins across the ditch. I'm sorry to the 6-strong Kiwi contingent that are in here. I do apologise profusely. There was that is the one round that I guess the annual trip across the ditch, as we like to call it.
Yeah, and it's 6 New Zealanders in this championship. That's quite a significant contingent. That's over a fifth of the entrants tonight, which is really showing that it is Australasian. And a big shout out to our New Zealand friends, as well as we've got Ujit Mishra as well, who I believe. Is he based in the Philippines?
He was. He's actually recently relocated back to India too, and I do believe actually had a stint of COVID recently as well in the country that's pretty much ravaged by it. So he's got his health back in order. Good to see him back out in Supercars field.
Absolutely.
And coming back to our our Kiwi crew, as Will Devenish goes a little bit wide at turn 1. Our Kiwi crew, not only the 6 in here, but there's at least another 3 or 4 doing duties in Super 2 that have not had a chance to run or in the main game just yet, but learning the craft, applying the trade, and hopefully not too far away from having a berth in the main game in wildcards in the rounds to come. But keep an eye out for those guys. You've got young Braxton Stancliffe's in there, you've got Aiden, Josh Watson, and a couple of other guys in there as well. They're all starting to realise that there's a good group of guys here racing, and it's very competitive, not just in Supercars but in Super 2 as well.
Being competitive, there's a few drivers making passes on their opening qualifying lap. I just caught on my screen Scott Stancliffe trying to make a pass on another driver around turn 4 as we're just watching Will Devenish complete his first flying lap, I believe. Yep,
so it's a 7.9, so that's a good opening start. 7s is going to net you probably top 3 or 4 rows in qualifying, but that's on the high end of the scale. I'm looking more towards seeing guys getting into like a 7.6 or a 7.7 if you want to have a shot at pole.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim Redmond just coming through the final corner where there's a yellow flag that I've just seen, but that doesn't matter to him. He sets an 8 flat as his first marker, so 3/10 away, but we should see Tim really wind into some pace later on. We've got a new provisional pole sitter. That's Kurt Stenberg, who's gone into the low, a 7-7 so far.
Yes, a 7-7 for Kurt Stenberg and 7-7-6-3, and now Rosella. So we're advancing the numbers really quickly here, and this is now under the track record. So Rosella has gone with a 7:02 on the end. You saw on the graphic earlier it was a 7:46 on the end was the Ethan Warren track record for qualifying. That is now gone. So I remarked at the start of the broadcast that there was a high probability it was going to go, and it hasn't taken, or one of them was going to go, and it hasn't taken very long.
Wow, Will Devenish, check that out. A
Whack.
7-2.
That is, he's gone back to the pits with that, but that is a big statement, and he wanted that record very, very early, and I think he could probably even park that car now. That's a staggeringly fast time. Where has all that time come from? I'm looking down the order here just to see where the purple sectors are. He didn't purple the middle sector. That actually belongs to Tim Redmond. And Redmond has just gone P2 ahead of Rosella in that last few seconds or so. So this is really starting to get ultra competitive.
Yeah, cracking stuff so far. And look at the gap between Redmond, Rosella, and Stenberg. It's less than 7/100ths of a second between those three for the battle for the outside of the front row. At the moment, everyone is within about, excluding Will Devenish at the moment, everyone else is within about 1.5 seconds of each other. So it's super tight stuff at the moment.
Yeah, very, very tight. And looking to see who the next man is that's going to jump up. And I've actually had a look. This man's had a little bit of a good run of form in the last couple of weeks. Brett Foley, who's just heading a nice queue coming out of the pits. His qualifying form has been really good. He's picked his pace up since Adelaide. The man behind him in the queue is Pete Savage. And remember Pete Savage, last round out, he just blitzed them in qualifying 1 at Phillip Island. His first lap was brilliant. Second lap was superb. And his third lap was off the scale and broke the qualifying track record as well. So a number of these records that have stood for a little while, some of them have stood for 12 months. In this case, they've stood for the better part of 3 years, are actually tumbling, which is great to see, just the level of competitiveness and how much practice some of these guys are putting in week on week. They've realised that they've got to be on their game to have any real shot at finishing at the pointy end of this championship.
Yeah, it's one of those things, as soon as one person steps it up, it seems like everyone else has to step up to get to that level. And it looks like with the advent of the permanent servers that have been going up, of the practice sessions, it's really enabled everyone to take a collective step up. And I know there's a fair bit of collaboration across teams and drivers, sharing setups and strategies and all that sort of stuff. So it's good to see that everyone's really made the effort to bring everyone up alongside each other.
Traffic's starting to become a bit of a factor now here, Flood 2 at a very, very tight circuit. The straights give you a little bit of respite, but people like Cam Rutledge here, they're on outlap, so he's tucked in there behind Rhodey, and also I think tucked in there behind Peter Thrower as well. So people like Cam need to start finding themselves a little bit of free air, a little bit of track space, maybe just ease off the throttle a little bit just to try and get a clean lap in. The draft is only so good here. Then you go into some of these braking zones, you've got slower cars around you, and you just lose all the time that you've gained through the draft. And if you have a look here from the onboard roof cam, he's actually done a pretty good job just to drop back from Rhodey by about 2 seconds, just to give himself enough room to have a crack at another lap. He's only got 2.5 minutes to go. And here's the next problem. Guys exiting the pit lane just need to be real careful. That's actually a really good job there by Matt Cecil just to stay wide. Good time to bring that up too. There are a couple of substitutes in tonight, so we will get round to all of them, jumping into some of the main game cars. But that's a really good job by Cecil to get out of the way and realise that Rutledge was coming on a quick one.
Yeah, traffic is going to be a big factor here, and with so many cars on this short track, you basically only got just over 100 metres to yourself. As Kurt Stenberg goes into second place, 107.4, so he's been the one that's gotten closest so far. Rosella and Redmond are a bit further back, about 0.2 behind. but Luke Rosella is in the wheel tracks of Kurt Stenberg, so he's got someone quite quick ahead of him to follow, and he can possibly improve on his lap time.
Burko pulling out the way to let the fast guys go through, and Rosella's in the game here, not quite close enough to the pole time, but only a tenth away, so that's not too bad. Stenberg with a bit of a moment off of turn 3, the car just snaps sideways, so that now just frees up Rosella. Now that probably might not be what he wants. He would have wanted to be dragged around in the draft. And whoa, big moment for Rosella, way too much curb on the inside at 4. And a big two-wheel moment for him. You have a look at that on the Smith & Sons replay. That is definitely worth it. We've got to look at this from the onboard, I think, because that's probably the bit that sort of is the interesting part. You can see they've stripped out all the interior here for maximum weight saving. From his point of view, it was up, 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 and away for Luke Rosella.
Looks like he was trying to be part of those old, like, Hyundai extreme driving thingies back in the day, back at the old Royal Show, wherever you're from. Just while that's happened, we've had the timer click under a minute, and so everyone will be on their last laps now. And a big question mark over whether or not Peter Savage can get another lap in. I saw him exiting the pit lane with just about a minute and 6 seconds left, so he's going to be borderline. The first one definitely on their last lap is Steve Burko, who crossed the line with just under a minute remaining. So everyone's just starting their penultimate laps now, and Burko will be the first one to close out the session for us.
Well, let's pick up Steve Burko, currently in 8th position in the Loose Sim Sport Boost Mobile entry.
And it's not a good lap for Burko. He's a second and a half away from his PB, so I think that's all she wrote for Burko tonight.
Yep, he's going to finish out the lap, and he's actually just ahead of a very small margin of Brendan Ross, and then the next man behind him you can see is Termo. And Termo's looped it, so he's now gone back to the pits, and a few guys have decided they want to give up the game as well, going back to pit lane. There are a few positions still on offer for those that can jump up the order. Rosella's given it away. Stenberg has now come in and given it away as well. Will Devenish is out there again, but he's now pulled the pin on that lap. And there are still a few drivers that are just trying to advance their way up the order. Rhodey is on his last fly up.
I'm going to bring your attention to Brendan Foley and Tim Redmond, both of them setting green Sector 1 times as they come through Turn 4 on the infield. And Redmond's just a bit further away. Foley is right on his PB though, so Foley might be able to just eclipse Peter Savage, who, by the way, didn't make it to the line in time to start a final lap, so he missed out. So Foley could grab another position here late on in the piece.
And here he comes to the line now. He was towing Redmond around for a bit. Redmond's gone in, and Foley makes some improvement, but not quite enough to grab another spot.
Does get into the 7s though, which is pretty good.
He does get into the 7s, and actually with everybody moving around too, Brendan Ross actually did jump up ahead of this man, Steve Burko, so that poor lap for Burko has cost him. It's cost him an extra spot. It bumps him down to the 5th row of the grid. So that is qualifying done and dusted, and there is there is a couple of things that I do need to pick up on this one, but your pole sit-up, there he is, Will Devenish. What a staggering time that is. 1 minute 7.208. Stenberg got pretty close in the end, and Rosella found time as well, and then back to Tim Redmond and Pete Savage. But have a look at this flight. The top 5, I did say the top 6, if you're a 107, you were going to be top 3 rows, and that's precisely what's happened as Roddy drives in forwards. The top 6 have all gone under 1 minute 8, so they have made the top 3 rows. The top 5 of those all under the old track qualifying record. What a phenomenal effort.
That is a huge improvement on where we were, 3 years ago, you were saying. And Ethan Warren, for those who haven't been watching the ASC Supercars, he is the best, probably one of the best drivers in that series. So he's no slouch. And the fact that we've gotten 5 cars that have dipped underneath that old track record, that's an incredible achievement. But look at the margins throughout the mid-pack. Look at Scott Stancliffe all the way down to Lime Mitch. They're separated by, what, less than a second. Well, not even less than a second. 0.2 of a second from fifth all the way up to ninth. It just the how tight the field is on the whole has been incredible so far tonight.
There's a major group of cars in here as well, from Turmo on a 1 minute 8.1 all the way down to Lockie Lock on a 1 minute 8.8. There's, what's that, from 7th all the way through to 20th is separated by 0.7 of a second. So
that is mental.
Which is mental. I mean, the top, obviously the top six are in a class of their own, with the, everyone sort of being in the 1 minute 7 bracket. But this is exactly what we wanted. This is going to be a very, very tight race. And I think Lewis Wedding remarked before the race as well, as the guys start to go out for warm-up, that some drivers might get a little bit of red mist. They might get a little bit silly in such a tight grid. So they would have been reminded just to behave themselves. You don't win the race on lap one. Don't go for silly moves, and just be sensible, because it might be a long race at 100 Ks, but you've got to pick and choose when you actually decide to pull the trigger on someone for a pass, because in a circuit like this and a tight pack, it could end in disaster, not just for you or your opponent, but for others as well.
Absolutely right. And if you look at that qualifying result, Nether, who do you reckon is a driver that might be a little out of position? Because I reckon I can see maybe 2 or 3 who have qualified outside the top 10 who might feel a little aggrieved, especially considering how tight the margins are.
Yeah, there are a few in there that are starting to drag my attention up. I'm actually just going to get a couple of things together here so I can go and have a look at those results, because we've got another timing screen here. Of course, the results and all the live timing at asr.league.liveraces.com. And if we bring up those qualifying results, for me, the first one that springs to mind as being out of position is probably going to be Lime Mitch. Now, Lime Mitch hasn't had a lot of practice, but he has had, he's definitely a little bit quicker than what he is. So that's probably the one that's the biggest one for me. And I know Dane Liccardo has definitely done a 7 in practice earlier in the week, as we go to practice pitches or warm-up pitches. But I do believe there is an overhanging infraction that he needs to serve. So he's not going to be doing the qualifying sessions as a result. That actually stems from a bit of some penalties that are overhanging from him, and he's going to serve those at this round. But I actually expect Dane to march his way through the field. I expect he's probably going to be he'll be targeting probably top 15 out of the 26 car field here tonight.
That's I have been impressed with Dane's pace so far, watching him over the past season and a half of different series he's been involved with. But something that he does need to iron out of his racing is that, let's say, lack of courtesy to other drivers. So hopefully he's able to make his way through the field without causing any too many major issues. So I think he's got a rear grid start for both races tonight. He mentioned. So a fair amount of work that he has to do. Another one I just want to sort of pick out there is Scott Nolan and NZ Snipes, both qualifying outside the top 10 or on the rear end of the top 10. Based on my interpretations of their speed in other series, that is a little bit of an anomaly to me. I would have expected them to be on the tail end of the top 10. But in saying that, though, I don't know who they oust in the top 10 to get there.
Yeah, that's the hard part as well. If you want to put somebody into the top 10, who do you actually take out? I do agree with you on the NZ Snipes one. His best time in the practice sessions across the week so far was a 107.8. So that would have actually been good enough for to actually unsert Brenton Foley from 6th place. So he would have then gone on to the 3rd row with that one, and Foley would have been in position 7. Scott Nolan, again, he probably needs a little bit more time in the seat. Very quick in the iRacing from what Luke Rosella was telling me, but when it comes to these cars, sometimes it can be a little bit of a different ball game depending on how things go for him. What we'll do...
Quick note.
We'll
sorry.
go for your quick notes, yes?
Just a quick note. On the point of NZ Snipes, he did only appear in the session immediately before qualifying, so maybe a little underdone heading into the session.
Yeah, possibly right there. Well, we'll take a little bit of a moment here while the count counts down. Let's bring up the drivers' standings for the series so far. Thanks to Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions. And as we alluded to at the top of the show, the standings got a bit of a shake-up coming out of Phillip Island. A really poor round for Will Devenish. Saw him lose the championship lead. He's lost it to Kurt Stenberg, and Luke Rosella has been jumped as well by Stenberg, but the margin there, very, very tight, just the 6 points. So one of the tightest beginnings to a championship over the first 3 rounds that we have ever seen at the head of the field. Devenish far from out of it yet. And then you've got Tim Redmond and Pete Savage very, very close together as well, just 8 points in that one. Burko's sort of in a little bit of no man's land in P6. Brenton Foley, Lewis Wedding, look at the margins there. They've, again, 3 points, not much in it. And then Kane Gray, who you'll notice, as we just mentioned, is NZ Snipes in the game, is the lead of the Kiwi Sim Sports dev team Nissans. And then Termo, Curtis Igmanis, after his debut podium at Phillip Island in the main game, he finds himself in the top 10. So that's something I didn't think we would be calling at the beginning of the year, is that Termo with a podium and Termo inside the top 10. It's not all bad news for Will Devenish. He may have lost the points lead, but he hasn't lost the fastest lap award. He's got 3 of the fastest laps over the opening 6 races. And Peter Savage has up until tonight, had the 3 of the pole positions. 2 went to Stenberg, 1 went to Will Devenish. So Will Devenish now moves on to 2. So that still remains as is. And then if we very quickly flip over to the team's standings, Devenish and Savage have split the poles between them. So they've got 4 for CRE Race Engineering, make that 5 now, because they've just chalked up another one for the team tonight, and they still comfortably head the team's standings by about 250 points there or thereabouts, and 3 teams inside, or actually over the 1,000 point mark. There's a couple of positions still to play for there, and a number of these drivers and in these teams will be looking to add to the team's points tallies tonight. Because there are a couple of substitutes which we will get into in a few minutes' time, just during the race.
Very well done there, Nether. That was quite a mouthful.
Quite a mouthful to get through, and looks like we are just about ready to go racing for the first of 32 laps tonight. So a few drivers getting set now. Looks like we're not too far away from a start.
A quick note as everyone comes to the grid. There's been a discussion had in the drivers' meeting prior to the race about the use of the pit lane exit for turn 1 when taking the racing line. So you will notice that there's an extra bit of tarmac on the exit of on the entry rather of turn 1. The drivers have been told that they can put, I think it's 2 wheels over that on entry, but anything more than that, and they will be pinged for it post-race.
Yeah, correct. It's going to be it's a half a car width is the allowance. It's been one of the rules that's been in place for this track for all the series that have run under it, and it's no different tonight. It's one of those ones that the drivers like to try and open it up, get a little bit more speed. It's probably, from what I've been hearing, is worth about 1/10 to 1/10.5 if you get it right. So expect to see plenty of drivers use that part of the track quite regularly tonight. As counts down, and we get to go for the formation lap. Flood, let's run through this grid real quick.
Yeah, and so it's Will Devenish on pole, a 2:07.2 to set the new lap record. So he starts from pole ahead of Kurt Stenberg, 2:07.4 for him. Luke Rosella will start from 3rd. Then it is Tim Redmond in the first of the Kiwi Sim Sports machines. He has Peter Savage for company, and then Brendan Foley. They were the group of cars who got into the 1:07 barrier. Thermo starts from 7th. He has Brendan Ross Company on row 4. Then it's Steve Burko and Scott Stancliffe on row 5. Ujit Mishra sits in 11th place, and he has NZ Snipes for Company in 12th. Next to them is Scott Nolan in 13th, and then Cheese running the Plus Fitness Nissan in 14th. Lion Mitch starts down in 15th. Expect to see him come through the field, and then it is Freakish in 16th position. Peter Throwell will start from 17th on the grid. Then it will be Nathan Higginson from 18th. Cam Rutledge in the CRE Race Engineering Machine from 19th. He has Lachlan Lott for Company on row 10, and that is your top 20. Steve Warren will start from 21st. Darren Kemp in the ASR Mustang guest car from 22nd. Matt Cecil will be driving Lewis Wedding's machine down in 23rd. And then we have Rody, who was the last qualifier on the grid. He will start in 24th. Then we have two drivers who did not set a lap in qualifying. Justin Cecil will start from 25th in the Kelly Grove Wildcard Mustang. And Dane Liccardo, as we detailed, a rear of grid start. He rounds out his 26 car field. Blimey, there is so many cars, and half the field is already set up and ready on the grid for to-go racing.
They certainly are. Come around a couple of cars coming around the final corner. Got a good view here. Liccardo, the last man to get into position. A little bit wide there. He's taking a bit of an interesting approach to maybe try and shoot the gap down the middle here. And how long is it going to be before we get a race start? We've also got all the plethora of onboards. You can see the one here. This is Lockie Locke's point of view, starting back there in 20th. Got a good view of the lights, not only a bit further down the grid, but also just off to his left there. And I think there might be a couple of cars out of position. Looks like we're ready now. Here we go. Race 7 of the championship for the year is now underway. And the start for Will Devenish have been a problem over the years already, and again, no exception, but this one's not that bad compared to some of the other ones we've seen in Butcher, and he slots into P2. Tim Redmond with a wonderful start as well. He's gotten up alongside Luke Rosella very, very early, and they're going to run side by side through turn 2, and it's 2x2 for most of the field as they roar down to turn 3.
It was Kurt Stenberg who got the whole shot, and he leads Will Devenish as they come into turn 4. Very deep under brakes the whole field. Luke Rosella dives down the inside, takes 3rd place. A few cars running very wide, a little bit of contact in the mid-pack, but everyone seems to have squeezed their way through without too much problem.
Everyone working their way through so far. I did mention looking for Dane Liccardo to try and launch his way into the probably the top 15 by the time the race is over. He's already done a really good job. He's up to 20th and 19th. He's challenging on the outside of Darren Kemp as they go into turn 4. So already make up a couple of spots, make that 18th, because there was a Kiwi Sim Sports Dev Team car off the road at 5. It might have been the car of Peter Thrower, and that's another spot for Cutter now to 17th. So what an opening lap. Big move on there.
Crash with the exit of turn 6. It was Brendan Foley who got a jackknife and came back across the track. He was lucky not to collect anyone else, but he is very damaged. You can see that car trailing down the straight.
Yeah, there he is. He's right in the mid-pack here, and they have to slot in behind Dane Liccardo. Let's go to the Smith & Sons replay and have a look at that one to see what has happened there. Here we go, coming into the final corner, and has Foley done this all on his own. He was in there behind. Oh, massive tank slapper. Just got too much on the power, and actually has done really well to avoid that car pinballing back into the rest of the field. But yeah, very, very heavily damaged race car.
Oh, I'm just going to bring your attention back to the front of the field, because Will Devenish and Kurt Stenberg are trading the lead corner by corner, over, under. Devenish got down the inside on the exit of turn 3, and then Stenberg fought it back and took it back. Now he's on the inside for the final corner, and they've dragged Luke Rosella into this as well. Luke Rosella's going to try and slide down the inside of Devenish as well, and it's going to be Stenberg from Rosella from Devenish as they come around to start lap 2.
Rosella on debut, this time 1 year ago. Believe it or not, it was Barbagallo last year where he dragged out a Volvo S60 and was immediately the star of the round. And he's looking to, for good memories, 1 year on from that. And not only that, to give Mustang potentially its first win in ASR Supercars. And he's right on the rear boot lid of Will Devenish here and it's up the inside and has enough room to space. Runs him a little bit wide, just escorts him a bit wide, which is just in the braking zone there. That allows Redmond to go through into P3 and Devenish to resume ahead of his teammate Pete Savage.
I think that was a little naughty from Rosella. I don't think he was going to be able to pull that up, regardless of whether or not Will was there, and to use Will as a bit of a posting board there, or a bounce board. I think Will has the right to feel a little aggrieved at that, especially considering a lap ago he was making a very good pass lead. In fact, Tim Redmond runs a little wide at the final corner and allows Will to take a sneaky look up the inside as they drag race down the main straight once again, but Redmond does have the drive out of the final corner. Just something I noticed as well, it looked like Dane Liccardo made a sort of mistake because he went back down the field and was in 26th the last lap around. He's already made up 3 positions as well.
Yeah, he has. There was a bit of contact between himself and another one of the cars between 4 and 5, and he did execute the redress there, so he was up as high as about 15th. You're absolutely right. And he has now had to redress that spot. He's now in there behind Matt Cecil, who, as we pointed out a little bit more, is driving Lewis Wedding's car. He is one of 2 substitutes. Substitute rule coming into effect for the first time this year. Lewis Wedding picking Matt Cecil as his preferred pilot. And the other one of the substitutes, you probably already saw that as well, is this man, Lockie Lock, who has had a wildcard appearance already this year at Phillip Island, and he has stepped into Lachlan Burke's Hype Sim Sport number 44. So the rules have always been for this year that if you want to substitute, if you can't make a round and you want someone to substitute for team's points, you can do it. You've just got to pick somebody from the Super 2 field and you can get the job done. Oh, and speaking of substitutes, one of them is going for a bit of a right on the wild side. Matt Cecil, I think, may have had a little bit of contact there with one of the other cars in the pack he was battering away with.
Unfortunate for Cecil, he will have to come back from the tail of the field as we just catch a replay of that one.
So here he comes through turn 4 in behind Liccardo, and did he do it on his own, or did he do it? Yeah, he actually did it on his own. I do apologise. And then one of the Nissans finished him off for good measure, which definitely not going to be I think Freakish's fault there, but he has ended up right down the field. So in the early going, there already have been quite a few casualties.
And one of them, just a small casualty, was actually Tim Redmond. He's just coming into turn 6 now. Last lap around, he actually went a bit wide at turn 5, tried to cover off a little too aggressively, put 2 wheels on the grass on the entry to turn 6 and ran wide, and that allowed both of the CRE machines of Will Devenish and Pete Savage to come through and take those positions. In the meantime, Kurt Stenberger's extended his lead at the head of the race and gone into the 7s, a 107.9 for Stenberg, and as he enjoys a 1.2 second gap at the head of the field.
So the first man to set a lap in the 7s, let alone the opening fastest lap of this race tonight. And there's your, you can see the margin there. So Rosella, who's comfortably in P2 at the minute. There is Stenberg, about a second up the road. Using a little bit more curb on the inside. Rosella's going to have to be careful doing that again after the escapades we saw in qualifying about 20 or so minutes ago. I know he's studying aviation at the moment, but he was definitely up and away in that qualifying session. Don't want to repeat that in the race because it's going to cost you probably about 15 or so seconds to your opponents.
This front group has just spread out a little bit. I wonder if they're already thinking about tyres. As I made mention of earlier, there were concerns about whether or not the soft tyre can make it to the end of the race on the single stop. So this group at the front is kind of cooled down the battle pack and spread themselves out just a little bit, maybe look to manage their tyres just a little bit more. The closest of this top 10 is actually Scott Stancliffe and Brendan Ross. Rossi just taking a peek down the inside on Stancliffe through turn 3, deciding better of it. And you can see there just the difference in lines between people coming through turn 3. Stancliffe running the really late apex and opening out the exit of the corner, whereas Rossi, he goes very deep.
Yeah.
A very ambitious move there.
Yeah, big mistake from Rossi. I think that one was. He has gone absolutely sailing. I think like Queen Mary too. He's just gone from one side of the harbour to the other, and that's actually cost him a spot as well. That cost him a spot to Termo, who I was about to say was being dragged back into that battle just by Rossi starting to try and gnaw away on the back bumper of car 718. And the podium sitter from the last round at Phillip Island now gains a spot, which actually puts him back to where he started the race.
Yeah, nicely done from Termo. I just jumped on board for a replay of Rossi, and he missed his braking point by a good 20 metres. It was actually good that he swung that car to the inside, otherwise he would have absolutely collected the rear of Stancliffe's Kiwi Sim Sports Commodore there. So well done from Rossi, quick thinking after making the mistake to make sure it didn't affect his direct competitor there.
Yeah, good situational awareness. That's one thing, or that's the terminology we like to use in ASR. You know, having the presence of mind to be able to take the evasive action, release the brake pedal, and shoot straight through. And then subsequently on the other side as well, from Scott Stancliffe, just to hold the wheel for that extra split second to realise what was going on and allow it to happen, and then just pick it up on the other side.
I'm just going to bring us a bit further up the field to the battle for second place, Luke Rosella and Will Devenish. I made mention a lap or two ago that the field had really sort of spread out in the top 10, but this battle on the other hand has closed up. Will Devenish last lap around a 7.999, this time a 7.965 to be almost at lap record pace or fastest lap pace, and he's really reeled in Luke Rosella, who's going defensive down the back straight here. He goes all the way to the inside, inviting Will to take the outside line. You can get a move done around the outside here. In fact, Luke's just gone a little deep. Devenish gives him a tap as he goes through on the inside. Now it's a matter of who gets the power down on the exit towards turn 4. Rosella can defend from this point here and will hit the anchors at the same time and maybe just escort Devenish a little wider. Does well there to defend. So Devenish stays in third. Rosella will hold on to second for now, but based on the previous lap times, I don't think it will be too long before Devenish is making another endeavour to pass that Mustang. And maybe a little bit too much there, and Rosella flashes the lights at him just to say, hey mate, none of that.
Yep, definitely.
And they play on.
And off we go again. So Devenish had a couple of opportunities there. Good presence of mind, good switchback out of 3. Just could not get the drive down to get ahead of Rosella for 4, and Rosella was able to cover it off. So played it perfectly. I guess you could say played it like a fiddle, and he defended really, really well. So here's the run down the straight. So there was Stenberg. There's the two of them. Then Savage. And then back to Redmond. And then Stancliffe's now got Termo that he's going to have to hold high and wide.
And just while you've been talking, Nether, Devenish has now made the move on the inside quite comprehensively. Came from a little bit further back and just eased Rosella out wide and managed to make the move. So that's now released Will Devenish, who has been setting faster lap times than the leader. So we might see that 3-second gap that it is now be eaten into by Devenish on Kurt Stenberg.
We can see there the margin is 2.7 at that second timing intermediate that he just crossed. And a little bit of a lock-up, just runs a little bit wide, and you can cut that back for a slightly late apex. But you're right, this is where it starts to reel in here. These are the money laps, because we're starting to wind down to the half-distance mark pretty quickly. 10 laps gone in 11.5 minutes, and he's really got to start thinking about how he's going to beat Kurt here. He needs to actually pull a really smart strategy trigger here, I think. Got to pick the right time to get in. You're going to split it right down the middle. Do you think you can get that one extra lap and have a slightly fresher set of tyres compared to your opponent for the second half of the race? Do you do anything with the pressures? What we've been hearing as well is a lot of drivers having to dial out some camber, dial out some pressures on the left-hand side of the car, because it is predominantly a right-hand turning circuit. So there's probably about an 8 to 10 pound difference in the pressures, or kPa, I would think it is, on the right-hand side of the car versus the left, just to make sure your tyres can actually survive to the stop.
Yeah, you might have just heard me protesting in the background, and Devenish is making sure that he's changing tyres at the stop, because he is torching those rears as he came through the internal part of the circuit. A little bit of power on oversteer each time through those internal corners. He is making gains, though, on Kurt Stenberg. Last lap around for Stenberg, an 8.7 versus an 8 flat for Devenish. He's really got that thing hooked up around here as he drifts it through turn 2 once again. He's really turning the screw here and maybe trying to see if he can get onto the tail of Stenberg before the pit stop sequence starts. Because I'm not sure how much of an effect the undercut is going to have, especially if you're worried about the tyres at the other end of the stint. So maybe the undercut gives you track position, but then you've got to fight to hold it at the end of the race. I'm not sure. If it was me, I'd probably be a little conservative and try and run as long as I can in this first stint, just to make sure I got something a little fresher to fight with at the end of the race.
Sorry to cut you off there, Flood. I was just wincing in pain for a minute because Burko went very, very deep at turn 3, and that's badly affected Scott Nolan, who was trailing the Cheese and Burko battle, and worthy of a Smith & Sons replay just to see what happened here, because you'll get a pretty good look at from Scott Nolan's onboard as to what happened here. So there's the move there. Cheese doing a pretty good job, held Burko pretty wide, who then ran off the road. Burko just sort of flinches and, so close to having a moment there. If we just rewind it back a touch, you'll just see it from the onboard. There it is. As he came back in, just a presence of mind to pull back the other way, but unfortunately for Nolan, the damage was done.
And that has dropped Nolan down to 13th place now, which is a full 3 or 4 seconds behind Burko after that little moment.
Yeah, it's cost him 2 spots. He was running in 11th, so that's cost him a spot to both Brenton Foley, the recovering Brenton Foley, and Urjit Mishra, who also got Steve Burko in that as well. So that actually puts Urjit Mishra inside the top 10.
Well done, Urjit. That's a decent return so far. There's still some time to go yet in this race. We're barely at 1/3 distance, let alone half distance. Just back at the front, just a little moment for Kurt Stenberg through turn 4. Just ran a little bit wide and lost half a second in a single corner. So easy to do here at Queensland. You got to really make sure that you're hitting all your apexes. But that gap now at the front, almost less than seconds, 1.1 seconds. And Devenish is actually dragging Rosella up with him to a bit of an extent. Those two have just gained a little bit more back on Stenberg in this second part of the first stint.
Yeah, you can just see the margin is slowly starting to shrink, not just on the timing screen, but you can see it visually as well. And all 5 in the top 5 in that shot there as well as they continue on. And last lap around, Stenberg 9.1, Devenish 8.2, Rosella 8.7, Peter Savage 8.9, and the one that was slowest of the lot was Tim Redmond, the 9.4. So 3 of the top 5 at the moment faster than the race leader. And
it's got a
very brief, very brief yellow flag that was out there at that part of the track. It might have been I think it might have been the 26th place car and Justin Cecil just having a very quick excursion. He's going to become lap traffic to these guys very, very soon. And there he is. So there is the Penrite car just at the head of this field here. Of the straightaway, I should say, not head of the field, head of the straightaway. And this margin's now under a second. So this is evaporating very, very quickly for Stenberg now. Will Devenish has got to be real careful here. This is lap 15, and he's got to think about when to pull this trigger.
Yeah, so if he gets to the end of this lap...
not this lap, because he's off in the grass.
And almost collects Luke Rosella. He had to get entirely out of the throttle there, and he's not happy about it. This has given Stenberg a massive free kick because it's just affected the next 2 cars on track.
It has indeed, and worthy of a replay as well, because he was right out sideways through that part of the circuit, and this is just the pushing too hard part. And he was a little bit wide there at 1, so he was already with a little bit of grubbiness on the tyres and completely well off the apex at turn 2. And what a save. It actually must be said, really good save and great presence of mind by Rosella just to ease that throttle and to avoid the collision, because Will Devenish was definitely out of control and Rosella had to take some pretty major evasive action there.
I don't think he eased the throttle. I think he had to slam on the brakes.
Looked like
incredible.
It. And on top of that, and this is now, Stenberg's pulled the trigger and he's pulled it at lap 15 and Rosella covers. And Will's going as well. So this is now effectively a pit stop race, and they're all going to be on the same strategy here. So that now promotes a few cars a bit further up the order. So that moves Stancliffe up to 4th, Turmo up to 3rd, who's actually finally managed to get past Savage. He's been trying to make that move stick for the better part of about 5 or 6 laps now. He's finally managed to get it done. it's actually going to put Pete Savage in the lead from Tim Redmond. So I think these guys will come in the next time around with to avoid the double stacking.
And that would be at half race distance as well. So they're doing what's called the even tyre strategy. So coming in exactly at half distance. Whereas these guys are coming in a little earlier, trying to get the undercut to work, but they're all undercutting each other, so it's kind of a moot point.
Oh, that's penalty.
Will Devenish.
All right, so that's a major one for Devenish as well. So his bad run of luck continues. He had the really poor results at Phillip Island, and he's now been done for pit lane speeding. So he's going to have to tour the lane again. And where's that drop him in? Well, that means that Savage is now coming in here, so he's in. And so too, Scott Stancliffe coming at a vast rate of knots, just managed to get it slowed down time. So those tyres are definitely not going to be seen again because they'll have two 50-cent piece flat spots on the front of them. And there's a double stack for the Kiwi Sim Sports team, so this is not good. They're going to have to make this work, and AMS doing AMS things, it always does.
as you do. Just a quick look at where those guys came out for those first stoppers. Kurt Stenberg currently in 11th. He's going to jump up a few more spots as he passes everyone in the pits. And not Dane Liccardo, Luke Rosella quite significantly further back, to the tune of about 6 seconds. So they're going to cross the line now. The gap between those two is, yes, 5.7 seconds between Rosella and Kurt Stenberg. So I'm not sure if Stenberg got out ahead of a little bit of traffic because he still had traffic to contend with, or if Rosella had a slow stop. That's a significant advantage that's been gained just in the pits.
I think there might have also been a bit of lap traffic for Rosella as well, because he's just getting past Steve Warwick in the Blackshaw Smash Repairs entry, and he's cost him a lot of time. Like his out lap alone was a mile slower than Kurt Stenberg. It was at least 2 seconds slower, and he's probably had a traffic affected lap here as well. And the timing screen sort of says it's about, he's cost him another 10.5 in sector 1 alone.
And to round off on where Will Devenish is, as he serves his drive-through penalty, he has come out in 18th position behind Dane Liccardo. So what we call a big off for Will Devenish.
Yeah, major off, and he's right all the way down from pole, right down to 17th. So ahead of him, look up the order here, the next one in the queue is NZ Snipes, and then ahead of him is Scott Noel and Steve Burko. Now, the fun part's going to be when he gets to Scott Noel, because Hans has called this perfectly a number of times. Devenish and Nolan don't like each other. He wouldn't want to put the pair of them in a phone box. There'd be an absolute riot, and probably the phone box would be absolutely destroyed. Not too many phone boxes around nowadays, it remains to be said, but I'm sure we could find, if we found one, it wouldn't last very long if they were in there.
Absolutely not. And that goes back to, I'm not sure how far it goes back in ASR history, but certainly in TCAC, some heated moments last season in the Group A racing. I remember a particular night at Barbagallo where I had to play mediator between the pair of them and basically telling them both to just shut up and listen to someone else for a second instead of yelling at each other. Stenberg's doing a great job of processing the traffic here as well, as that gap at the front has elongated to 6.9 seconds between himself and Luke Rosella, so he's cleared off at the front. And a part of that is setting a new fastest lap that's just popped up, 7.8. So he's really got the hammer down. That was with passing traffic as well, so he's really putting this race to bed as early as he can. Yeah, he would have had a little bit of a tow there as well from the Matt Cecil car on the run down to the final corner, which probably would have given him that little bit of an extra kick. And he is pretty much motoring on with it now. Now, I was about to say there are a couple of guys that were running long. This one was Cam Rutledge, so he's gone all the way to lap 18. He was up in third for a very brief moment, and he's currently in the 10. But I fear is probably going to fall out of the 10. He'll probably fall down behind his teammate, Will Devenish here, as they all come through. There goes Liccardo. There goes the Urgent Mishra car. So that puts Cam to 16th. And actually, he has come out behind Devenish. He's going to come out just in front of the Blackshaw's car, Steve Warwick here. And all but briefly, Warwick gets the hammer down and gets through, and that puts Cam, actually still puts him 2 spots up from where he started. So running long has paid a few dividends here. And Flood screaming in my ear, what are you looking at? NZ Snipes and Scott Nolan for 11th and 12th. Brief moment where it looked like they were going to come to blows at turn 3, but it looks like they're going to come to blows at turn 4 Instead, Snipes on the inside this time after making the move at 3. Manages to hold Nolan behind. That was brewing for about a lap or two. I was keeping track of them while you were watching Cam Rutledge in the pit lane. And this is important, an important battle, because just behind this pair is Will Devenish. There he is. So the more these guys keep battling, and very willingly battling as well, the closer Will gets, and the more complicated this little equation becomes.
Yeah, the more difficult the equation becomes as well. And Burko not too far up the road either, so there's a position 11 is on offer for Will Devenish here if he can process these guys pretty quickly. So this is where it now starts to get a little bit interesting for Will Devenish as we have a little bit of a look at Scott Nolan and the rear bumper, and here comes car 15, and pretty firmly up the inside here, and at the end of the day, that's a pretty easy pass in the end.
Yeah, we built it up to be something mega and annoying, but it was all very nicely squared away. Just ahead as well, Snipes had a bit of a look at Burko, so that's another willing battle. It might be good here for Snipes and Devenish, or maybe Devenish and Snipes, if that's the way it ends up. Or maybe not for Devenish, as he gets a big tank slapper on at turn 5 and loses all momentum. Gets a bit of a touch up from Nolan as well, just a bit of a bump draft.
Bit of Morse code there as well, so very lucky to keep it on the island yet again for Will Devenish. So that's 2 instances where he's had to get a fistful opposite lock in this race, and that should be warning signs, if I'm being brutally honest here, Flood. That should be warning signs that something is not right with the setup. It might be fast, but it's a very loose race car, and I mean, they do say loose is fast, but if you keep pushing the envelope time and time again, it's going to be trouble. And we've already seen that he's had it twice, and he's had that pit lane speeding penalty as well. So maybe time to have a bit of a think between races about smartening that car up for race 2 tonight.
He does a good job to get down the inside of Burko. Burko ran wide at 2. That made it pretty elementary for Devenish in the end. Yeah, there's only so many times you can get away with it if it's that loose, and Will's already shown tonight that most of the time isn't quite good enough, especially when you've got Kurt Stenberg out in front and pounding away. What I was going to say before Devenish interrupted me by taking a brief excursion is that it might be smart for Snipes to sort of, when Will passes him, because I feel like it will be a when, not an if, given the circumstances, to just tack onto the rear of Devenish and kind of just track him through the traffic, because they've got Mishra and then Cheese and potentially Brendan Ross and Turmo will be the next group of cars. And Snipes' car looks pretty quick. We said that he qualified a little out of order down in 11th. So if he's able to just tack onto the rear of Devenish, who's going to have a head full of steam, with everything that's going on tonight.
It's coming right now. He got a really good run off turn 2, so this should be a pretty easy pass for Devenish up the inside to 3.
And Snipes has actually just backed out of it.
And that's the smart call. Yeah, that's the smart call. So he's going to maybe take your advice here, Flood, and just try and tack onto the back and have him tow around, because the next man, as you mentioned, up the order is Ujit Mishra, and he's probably about, if I'm looking at the map here, about 2 seconds up the road. We'll get an intermediate timing split here as they get through the thing. Yeah, 3.3 seconds, and there's still plenty of time to go. So heaps of time for these guys to go, and Snipes is doing exactly what you just said he should do, and that's stay with him. But he's actually doing a little bit more here. He's having a bit of a think about sending it back down the inside. He wants that 10th place back, but do play the smart card here and just follow him around. Oh, I'm behind. What was that going on behind?
Wow, that was Burko getting a fistful of opposite lock as he caught the throttle in. It was well ahead of Nolan before that. Just put the loud pedal a bit too loud, and I had to gather it all up again.
Here we go. So worthy of another one of the Smith & Sons replays, because this is not the first time that Burko has had a fistful opposite lock tonight. He's been off the track a couple of times here. Car was on the curb, that was all right. Brought the power in, he was off the throttle, and a little bit of a sideways moment. Not as severe as what it was down at turn 3 before the pit stops happened, though.
And he's currently engaged with in a battle with Scott Nolan because of that little moment. He had no momentum coming down the straight, and Nolan's managed to squeeze past at turn 3. Brakes very early for turn 4, tries to take away the apex from Burko, who very smartly executes the over-under and will sneak back up the inside.
Great job. Great job. What a great pass, and a repass to go along with it. Fantastic racing, and here they go again, down at 6, squirming under brakes. Nolan with a bit of compression locking on the rears and gets back down the inside. So fantastic exchange between the two Mustang drivers.
Yeah, that's definitely the type of racing you want to see. And while they dropped off the back of both Devenish and Snipes, you've got to say from the pair of them, well done, great racecraft, and very good job not to tag each other, I must say.
Yeah, fantastic job not to tag each other, and they will carry on down towards turn 3 for a little bit longer. Now, you were talking about NZ Snipes before, so let's actually pick up some of the Kiwi contention, because this is probably one of the best results so far that Cheese has had. Car 7, the Andre Heimgartner Plus Fitness Nissan. Now, it needs to be said, there's 2 gentlemen in the field tonight that are actually have filled a little bit of a vacancy, so we need to give them a shout out. So Cheese here in position number 8, and his teammate, which is Freakish down here in position number 18. These guys are actually 2 Super 2 runners. They have stepped up in a degree from Super 2 to Supercars. They're actually going to be doing both. They're filling the void that has been left by the still holding together team of Zach Ross and John McDonald, who have actually, I think it's fair to say, have withdrawn from the series, as Freakish has a little bit of a moment there. They're filling the void that those guys have left. They've 2 of the guys that are very, very good, and very rarely do we have them pop up in the stewards' reviews. In a number of occasions have actually been on the wrong end of the penalties, but good to see these guys stepping up, making it a 6-strong Kiwi contingent for main game.
Yeah, it's awesome to see the Kiwis get involved. You might have just heard me protesting in the background.
Yes.
Ujit Mishra ran wide at turn 3 to cede position to Will Devenish. Sorry, turn 2. And NZ Snipes almost followed him off as well. So Snipes has dropped off the back of Will. And a bit further up, you were mentioning the Kiwis. How's this? Scott Stancliffe versus Termo and Brendan Ross for 5th, 6th and 7th. They've been at it for the last 3 or 4 laps, and Termo is really terrorizing the rear of that Commodore at the minute.
They've been at it longer than this. Scott Stancliffe had his rear view mirror full of Termo for pretty much the first half of the race until just before the pit stops, when Termo managed to slip past, and Stancliffe's managed to get him back, and he's had a whole battle on. And then a bit further down the field, you were just right, there's Snipes and Mishra engaged in a battle as well. So it's not New Zealand and Australia, now it's New Zealand and India getting it on as well.
And that was, I'm not sure if you caught that on the broadcast, but there was a big moment of contact in the mid-corner there. Snipes almost actually tipped over.
We're going to have a look here. So here we go on the run down to the final corner. So Snipes, big send, tried to cut it back, and as they come through, whoops, a little bit of contact there. So all's fair in love and war. Snipes not too happy with it, but they were racing pretty hard there, and there was a pretty big send, I think, from Snipes going into that last corner of the circuit.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where you try and cut back. You see it in bike racing all the time, when the cutback is on and you try and take that late apex, inadvertently this time, because of course he ran wide. But then all of a sudden there's a machine in the way, and I don't think Mishra did anything wrong there. I don't think Snipes necessarily did anything wrong there. But it was just lucky that neither of them ended up out in the weeds.
Speaking of bikes, how good's Jack Miller? How good is Jack Miller? Good. So we're going to be looking forward to seeing what he can do in a couple of weeks to make it 3 in a row. It's good to see him fighting up there and showing some of the potential he's had for a while. It's good to see, as we said, Scott Stancliffe showing some of his potential as well, because this is some of the best driving I think we've seen from him in Supercars Championship. He was very, very quick in Super 2, and he's really, it's probably one of the best defensive performances I think we've seen from him in quite some time. Very, very mature drive here in P5, and it's going to be good points for Kiwi SimSport as well, because Tim Redmond is just up the field, probably about 2 corners a bit further up, in 4th place, and Tim has had a podium on a couple of occasions already this year. So Kiwis making their presence felt, but
Termo's been a great run. I was just riding on board with him, and he just got the power down perfectly as Stancliffe just opened up on the inside. They're going to go side by side into turn 1. There's almost contact. There is contact.
There's tagging. Brendan Ross going to buy into this as well if they're not careful. So there's Scotty's just got to be careful here, just to leave a little bit of space here, because there was a bit of tagging on the run to 1, and Termo's now through, and that's going to give Rossi a bit of an incentive now. He's going to have some room on the run down to turn 3, and he actually thinks better of it. And
he goes very deep into turn 3 actually eases Turbo wide, and is he going to get that position back?
He pulls.
No!
He pulls him up. Turmo's not too happy about it. There was no contact there, Turmo. So
Wow.
Turmo saw it coming from a mile away and just sidestepped the argument. But to his detriment, it's allowed Scott Stancliffe to go back through. So big exchange of events there. This is getting feisty. I think there's going to be plenty of rib jabbing come the end of this race between all the drivers. There's a few guys playing for sheep stations up and down the field at the moment, but very, very clean and job well done from all of them there to get through that unscathed.
That was awesome.
That was very, very good. The only sore point that I guess we're going to look at the moment is there's only one retirement from this race. It's only just happened in the form of Steve Warwick. So he's just gone out on lap 26, which is pretty close to making the full distance. So he's done pretty well to get as far as he has. I know he's had a few health battles and stuff as well, but he's fighting on and continues to jump into some of the ASR series, which is great to see. And, well, despite the penalty that he had to pay for redressing a position, Liccardo has found his way back inside the top 15. He's just dispatched Orjit Mishra for 13th place, but
Lai Mitch.
Lai Mitch, sorry, my bad. Lai Mitch. I get confused because there's not the markings on the cars. I've got to remember the orange is Mitch. Sorry, the orange is Mishra and the green is Mitch. And Liccardo's now just going to have to fight on here to hold on to P13 for just a couple more laps. They're on lap 29, but Mitch is very, very firmly alongside here. And a little bit of bit of bumping and a bit of tagging between these two guys, and they come together.
That's ended in absolute
tears
there.
That's
and
gone.
Mitch,
That was brewing. That was brewing.
Yeah, it was a weird thing, I think, because I'm not sure because what am I trying to say here, Michael? Mitch was on the tail of Liccardo, but Liccardo had passed both him and Burko on his way to get to that position. So maybe Mitch's tyres just phased into a little bit better. But watching that back, that little...
And there's a redress. There's a redress been executed there as well. So Liccardo's actually given a spot back. But it's cost them both spots. They were fighting away there. I don't know whether that was it's one driver moving over on another or what's happened there. But Dane obviously feels that he's in the wrong on that occasion. And he has moved over and given that spot back.
Yeah, I'm just watching on board now, and I'm not sure. The initial contact is pretty 50-50, but when they get to the corner, there is just a little touch from Dane that sends Mitch around, spearing off to the right. So unfortunate for Dane, that was quite a good run up the field to get into 13th. I think he would have been very happy with that. I think that one might have to be reviewed post-race. And now Mitch seems like he's dropped from the race. It looks like he's stuck on the exit of turn 3.
I think he's had an internet dropout or something there because he's right. You're right. He has sort of stopped out there on the track. So he has actually made the 75% distance. So there'll be enough points to be classified. He'll end up as probably the 25th and last car if that's the case. This battle between Scott Stancliffe, Turmo and Brendan Ross is still rampaging on while the race continues, and it's only got one more lap to go. So for Stancliffe, he's got another 7 corners to go, and same for the guys behind. They've got to then decide to pull the trigger, but he's pulling all the right defensive dance moves at the moment to head off the advances in Turmo. The other man who's pulled off all the right dance moves is the race leader and the points leader coming into tonight, and he's going to bank another 150 points. The lap record for race trim still stays as it is in the hands of Ethan Warren, at least for this race. We'll have to wait to see what happens when we get to race 2 in about 20 minutes time. But for the driver of car number 1, survived an initial early lunge from Will Devenish, and then after that it became pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah, Stenberg has been the class of the field tonight, has the fastest lap of the race for good measure. Really, once Devenish and Rosella got a little bit involved just prior to the pit stops, there was nothing anyone could do to head this incredible V8 Supercars driver. Well done, Kurt and takes home another race victory.
And a big slide through turn 1 to boot. Rosella's going to get another podium and actually chased by Pete Savage all the way there. So that gap really closed up. Really slow lap for Rosella in that in that final lap. A minute 10.5. Savage with an 8.9. So really closed that margin down in the last couple of laps. And he gets home for third. It's going to be Kiwi Sim Sports, Tim Redmond home in fourth. And Turmo did manage to get Scott Stancliffe on the last lap, so he gets P5. Stancliffe will be sixth with Rossi in position 7. Good result for the Kiwis as well. Cheese gets home for 8th. Will Devenish recovered to 9th, so that's probably the best he could do. And NZ Snipes is going to make it 4 Kiwis inside the top 10, so that's a really good showing from the Kiwi crew.
Yeah, Scott Nolan 11th, Ujit Mishra 12th. Burko will come across the line in 13th, just ahead of Cam Rutledge in 14th. And then looks like everyone else was lapped down with Freakish 15th. Dane Liccardo, unfortunately, down in 16th after that late incident with Lion Mitch. Darren Kemp, Brendan Foley, Lock on Lock. Nathan Higginson is your top 20. Peter Thrower, Matt Cecil, Rhodey. Justin Cecil is your finishers with Lion Mitch DCing on the penultimate lap and Steve Warwick on lap 26. Turmo did a very, very good job to sneak down the inside on the entry to turn 2. Just got a much better run through turn 1. Maybe a tyre problem for Scott Stancliffe, but Stancliffe did enough to keep Ross behind him on that final lap. A battle that went absolutely to the wire. But really, you can't take anything away from Kurt Stenberg at the head of the field. Just all class. Never looked like getting headed once he took the lead. And just managed the race to the end. Just he did exactly what he needed to do.
Yep, did precisely what he needed to do. Everything that I think could go right for him tonight, it did go right, and he's got himself another 150 points in the bank for his trouble, which is good for him when you look at the point standings overall. Luke Rosella with another second place finish, so he stays in touch. Most importantly, he banks 138 points. He was 6 points behind coming into the night, so that now moves him out to 18 points in arrears. So that's a good result for him. And then Pete Savage just continues to show, go strength to strength when he jumps in a racetrack up 2 spots from where he started up into third place overall for the night. And for me, Flood, Pete Savage, who is actually joining us right now, this is, I guess, one of the stories of the year that I like. He's found a really good home in the CRE Motorsport stable. Every time we see him, he's doing really well, and his results from last year to this year are a huge step up.
Yeah, well, I remember his debut in the series was with ASR, as it was back then, AMS Oz, was with the GT3 World Challenge at Istanbul, where he just schooled the field, and it was a bit of a he didn't school the field, but he was very impressive in lap times throughout the entire race, and he's just gone from strength to strength. And Peter, if you want to offer a comment, if that would be so kind of yourself, how's it been for you joining us in ASR and your progression in the series? How have you felt coming through the series and racing up with the top guys?
Yeah, well, I am starting to feel like I'm in a pretty good groove now. I have not had much practice with the new wheel. I'm not exactly that good when it comes to Queensland Raceway, but I was able to stay out of trouble and get another podium, which is always good, especially after the disaster that was Phillip Island. So yeah, just happy for the podium, really.
Awesome result for you with the podium as well. You got very, very close to the rear of Luke Rosella in those final stages. Just take us through how that worked at the end of the race.
Yeah, I don't actually know what happened there. I think he got taken out because I originally thought his tyres were gone. So I thought the place was in the bag, but he seemed to drive on fine after that. So I just tried lining up a move out of the last corner and sadly just got a little bit of wheel spin. Otherwise, probably would have been a pretty nice drag to the end.
It was a very nice drag to the end from our viewpoint. Another podium for you tonight. Another race coming up. Do you reckon you've got enough in the tank to maybe try and stretch for the top 2 or even the race win?
Nah. Like I said, this isn't a track I favour, and that's probably the best I think I've ever done at this track. I'm not expecting anything. Wherever I finish, I finish. I'm just trying to bag points tonight.
Oh, well, you're doing a very good job of banking points, and there's always an opportunity to do better than the best than you finish. So good luck for the second race. I hope it goes out well for you. Podium in race 1. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Second place was Luke Rosella. Luke, great race from you overall. A bit of a tussle with Will Devenish early on. Just take us through that moment when he came back onto the track at turn 2 right in front of you.
Not
What
very
goes through
happy.
your head at a moment like that?
I don't think it's family friendly on the stream, but yeah, not too happy with that rejoin. Yeah, you can sort of understand he's out of control, but yeah, it's not the most ideal re-entry. But anyway, yeah, I was pretty happy with how the race went. Car's been pretty quick actually throughout the week. Yeah, tried to sort of hang on the back of Kurt. We are sort of closing on him in this first stint, just trailing behind Devenish. But yeah, I saw the gap was way too large in the second stint for me to really try make any inroads. So I just sort of cruised the last stint there, and yeah, happy to get a second place and finish ahead of Will, who's probably my biggest rival thus far in this championship.
You say that Will's your biggest rival in the championship thus far, but you are closer in points to the leader than Will is. Just take us through that second stint. You said you cruised a little bit. We noticed that you were quite a bit further back at the start of the stint after the pit stop, after the first lap. Was that because of a bit of traffic on your outlap, or did you just not quite get the pit stop as nicely as you would have liked?
Bit of traffic, yeah. I think I overfueled just a little bit as well. Yeah, Stenny must have got the fuel numbers pretty perfect. The pit stop. So yeah, I think he gained a couple seconds,
Yeah.
maybe 3. Yeah, but oh well. As I said, I'm happy to get second. Bit of a scare at the end there. My tyres just absolutely fell off the cliff at the end. So yeah, Peter was pretty close to me. But yeah, as I said, happy to get second place.
Awesome. Just one more quick question. Any adjustments for race 2? You mentioned your tires falling off the cliff there at the end. Are you going to try and load out the pressures, or maybe stiffen a bar or something to try and be a little kinder to them?
Yeah, there's gonna be there might be a few adjustments, definitely. Yeah,
Or a strategy adjustment?
Yeah, a bit of that as well. But yeah, as I said, I wasn't really. I was cruising, but they still was really marginal. So yeah, there's definitely be a few adjustments. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, I hope those adjustments turn your car into a bullet, and good luck for race 2.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
And finally, our race winner, Kurt. Impeccable race from you, Kurt, after taking the lead. Yeah, just take us through the race from your perspective. Seemed like a bit of a quiet one.
Yeah, mate. Didn't do much practice coming into this event, so
Of course not.
Yeah, well, I spent the hour before the race trying to get something. I tried last time I was here set up. It wasn't very good, so I grabbed my one from last round, Phillip Island. Knew we had to get the tyres to last, so I spent the whole of practice working on that. So when it came to qualifying, I didn't quite do a good enough job, but it didn't matter. Started P2, got the start, which I thought I would, and then yeah, it was I knew I needed to defend it the first few laps because I knew that's when I was vulnerable, and then from there on in, I thought that I had the speed in the car and the tyre life, but I must admit, the tyre life probably could be better. So.
Well, it worked out very nicely for you in race 1. Just take us through trying to navigate your way through traffic. How difficult is it to get through the traffic on a track like this?
It is a little bit difficult, but it's not too bad. Like a lot of the zones at this track you can overtake at. So I mean, turn 1 and 2 you don't really want to catch someone, but everywhere else you can pass someone pretty easily. So, and when you've got a bit of a buffer, you're not too worried about it if you're looking after tyres. It's mainly if you had someone right up behind you, you'd be a bit stressed. But we'll see what happens in the next one. That could be a bit more of a factor.
Yeah, I was about to say, race 2, any changes in your car or in your strategy, or are you basically just trying to copy paste from what you had in race 1?
Trying to copy paste, but I might have a look at some things because yeah, I was a bit worried that we weren't going to have enough tyres at the first stint of that race. But then I saw Will go off the track in the mirror, and I thought, yeah, maybe because he was coming at me, and I was a bit worried about that. And then I went, okay, so he's in the same boat as me. So
Yeah.
it's not all doom and gloom.
that must be encouraging. Well, best of luck for race 2, but you got another qualifying session to get through first.
All right, no worries. Thanks, guys.
That was our podium from race 1. Nether, a few, despite the good results, a few solemn sounding voices there. Peter wasn't really expecting too much from the second race. Luke was a bit down on finishing second, and Kurt was very worried about the tyres. It's almost as if these guys aren't celebrating being on the podium.
I think there's a few guys that are probably not trying to give too much away, Flood. I think that's probably what I read into it. I can see a few like patterns emerging there as well. Of course, the big one was everybody came in on the same lap, and they came in before the half distance mark, which is why I think a few guys have got some worries about tyres, especially Luke Rosella, maybe trying to stretch it 17 laps. And we did say that window was 15 to 17. If you could come in, you could get it done. If you tried to go a little bit, 17 was probably the upper limit on laps. So he's probably maybe just pushed, even if he was cruising that and getting, tithing tyres falling off a cliff right at the end of it, I think he has a right to be concerned.
Might have to go on the hards or do a two-stop.
Oh, no, I don't think that's out of the equation. We'll take a short commercial break, and we'll be back with race 2 and qualifying 2 in just a few moments. ASR's Supercars Championship in 2021 is proudly brought to you by Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions. Smith & Sons, design, plan, construct. Cam Rutledge Electrical, and Matt Harvey Repair and Tune. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching round number 4 of ASR's Supercars Championship in 2021. Race 7 of the championship has just concluded, and race 8 is not too far away between now and then. We've got another qualifying session to get through. And Flood, we've seen some pretty hard racing, I think, in that one, but pretty clean overall. There's a few, as we said, few questionable incidents. There were a few guys that were off the road and had their fair share of moments, but overall, there was some really ripper battles up and down that field in race 1.
Yeah, the only I think that really came properly to blows, unfortunately, was Liccardo versus Lime Mitch, and I'm not sure exactly who was to blame in that one. It seemed like they both got into each other a little bit, but that's beside the point. The fact that we saw Scott Stancliffe, Termo, and Brendan Ross battle for the entire second part of that race and barely make contact with each other. Luke Rosella and Will Devenish being very feisty as well. A lot of battles compounding into other battles. Really quite impressive stuff. I'm quite happy with the quality of racing we've seen so far. If that continues into the second race or not is another story.
Yeah, spot on. That's the big question mark as to the drivers have already got a bit of a feel for what everybody else is up to. Are they going to be able to live with it for another 32 laps? That's the $64,000 question as they put it. And there's already a number of drivers, I think, that have realised they need to make a few adjustments and are just cutting a few laps in this practice session before we go into qualifying 2. And that's going to advance in a couple of seconds. The real one for me is who can repeat their qualifying performance. They all know now that in order to get top 3 rows, you have got to be in the 107s. But one person that didn't manage to pull off that 107 was NZ Snipes, and he has pulled off one of those during the practice sessions this week. Actually, if I have a look at some of the best the best times in the cars, so Will Devenish, best Commodore, 107.208 for qualifying. Luke Rosella, best Mustang, 107.593. NZ Snipes, the best Nissan, at a 107.890. And the best of the wildcards is actually freakish at a 108.270. That's in practice during the week. That obviously is now a permanent fixture, but that's the best of those cars that has taken to the track. So I think there's a cause for a lot of drivers to really celebrate some of the laps that they've done, because the field spread, as we mentioned earlier, is very, very tight. And a number of drivers, I think, can be pretty happy to look at their lap times on paper and go, I'm quicker than the last time I was here, or I'm quicker than I've ever been in anything I've done around this track before. But by the same token, they'll be looking at where they are on the left-hand side of the column, which has positions number 1 through 26, and find their way halfway through the field and go, nah, I should be further up.
Yeah, and there was a few drivers who might feel aggrieved by that, and it just shows. We made mention if you lose a 10th or 2/10ths in the mid-pack in qualifying, it really can affect your races. So for the likes of Steve Burko, who qualified 9th, down 4 places because he got involved in a little too much of that mid-pack malarkey. On the other hand, Cheese, who qualified in 14th, up 6 places to finish in 8th. So very well done for him. But there's a great mix of stories in that mid-pack. A few guys making little gains, a few guys having a little loss. Particularly Brenton Foley, who started 6th, down 12 spots. He said in the YouTube live chat that he had his force feedback let go on him on the end of lap 1, and then had damage, which then popped the tire on the last lap of the race. So he had a bit of a tortured race for him and finished as off the lead lap. So it just goes to show it's all those little 1%ers that really add up to the race. And Kurt Stenberg was the one who had those 1%ers squared away.
Yeah, he sure did, and he's at the head of the queue at the moment as they all pretty much filed out of pit lane, with the exception of Dane Liccardo. So he's got another rear grid start, which will clear his penalty ledger. And what we might do is we'll take an impromptu onboard lap with our current points leader, winner from race 7 of the championship just a few moments ago, as we tackle this 3-kilometre circuit. So open up the corner as much as you can for turn 1. Carve it in there, just try and hug the apex of that corner. Same with turn 2, just want to hug the apex as long as you can. Patient on the throttle, pick it up on the outside because it's one of those corners that's more than 90 degrees. It feels like it goes on forever. And then this really long run down the back straight. And on the brakes just after the 150 board, you can see the tracks where you want to be. You can pick up the apex a little bit earlier, or you can try and pick up a bit later, try and follow it out there. Kurt's just squirming a little bit as he heads onto the straight runs between 3 and 4. Didn't use all the return road on the exit of 3. A little bit
of a lock up there.
Yeah, a bit lock up under brakes going into 4. It's a bit of an untidy lap. Rides a touch of curve on the inside at 5. Some guys do like to run some curve on the inside at 4 as well. And then on the anchors for the slowest corner on the circuit, which is the hairpin. Patient on the throttle. He was a little bit impatient. Car wanting to jump away there and then jump to the line. And despite being an untidy lap, by his standards, it's a 7.368. So immediately throws down the gauntlet to Will Devenish and says, well, you might have had the top time in qualifying number 1, but my time is going to take something to beat. Over to you.
That was quite...
and immediately beats him with a 2.94. So he says to Kurt Stenberg, I see your 107. Yeah, I see your 107.3, and I raise you a 107.2.
And Will's backed out of it straight away for the second lap. I took note on Stenberg's lap. If you actually just want to jump on board with Will as he comes through turn 3, I'm not sure if this is going to be up to pace or not, but Stenberg takes the very narrow exit out of turn 3, whereas Will, maybe this isn't going to be the best.
Yeah, it won't be this
example
ideal because he's...
Cecil spins ahead of him, but Devenish prefers to take the wider exit out of turn 3, use all of that return road, as Nether called it, to really widen out and open up the radius of the corner. So
here's probably the best example of it now. So Scott Nolan, you can see here right out to that part of the circuit. That's precisely what I was referring to there, using that little bit of the concrete. It's still, actually, believe it or not, it's not concrete anymore, it's tarmac, because they do have several connecting roads here. There's a connecting road you can just see in the background there of shot. Comes off at turn 2, swings hard to the right, basically does a 180-degree hairpin, and then joins at turn 4, and then runs all the way down towards turns, what is now turn 5 and 6. And then, of course, there's the little connecting road that comes off of turn 3, which then cuts across the circuit to turn 6. It's one of the configurations. It's a little bit different here at Queensland Raceway. Used a lot more in the local state racing than anything else. Just to change up some of the layouts, because they've only got really they've got 3 circuits up there in Queensland. They have got Queensland Raceway, they've got Morgan Park, they've also got Lakeside, but Lakeside does have its noise restrictions that it has to abide by, sadly, so it doesn't see a lot of action. So the way they get around that is by having the different layouts. They do have some different layouts at the Morgan Park circuit as well, and they've got the Norwell Motorplex as well, but which is really private facility for where Erebus Academy is, and Paul Morris and driving school and the likes of them are all in there as well. So it is a circuit, but it's not really a circuit that sees much activity in forms of motor racing.
I've got my eyes on Scott Stancliffe as he crosses the line, a 108.3, and we were saying a 107 would get you on the top 3 rows of the grid. Well, a 108.3 puts you in 11th at the moment, as that is how tight the margins are. He is actually over a second down on the top 2, which is a bit ridiculous to say, because a 108.3 is still a very impressive lap. Yeah. Kurt Stenberg is on another flyer. He's actually worked out quite nicely a little bit of space ahead of him, so he's got a clear track to ply his trade into, but he is 8/10 down at the first sector, so that's all a bit mute. And there's an absolute train of cars in the pit lane, by the way, all making their way back out onto the track for a second run.
Yeah, they are. So Savage is out there, is in the lane, so too is Redmond. Will Devenish coming out again. The 2 loose SimSport Mustangs off there in the background and getting ready to have another dip for qualifying, and they've come out at the right time too, because there's no traffic on the front pit straight, so they've timed that pretty well. And off goes Redmond. Savage just lets him through, just decides he doesn't want any part in the argument, and plenty of cars coming in to the lane, changing tyres, resetting fuel, getting ready to go out again, and it's going to be all about timing when you actually leave the lane and go from there. Now for Kurt Stenberg, he's going to have another go here, and he's just come out, actually come out with Darren Kemp, just came out just ahead of him, but Kemp's done a really good job there to let the faster car through. Kemp on the out lap, Stenberg on the flying lap. How badly has that affected him for this one? And the answer is not a terrible amount. But he's gone deep.
He goes deep there.
And that'll be that.
I actually think the answer was just enough is the problem. I was on board with Kurt at the time. You could see Kemp in the distance, and there was just enough. It was just a brief hesitation on the throttle in the middle of turn 2, and you know, had that been, I think had that been not there, we would have seen a green sector 1 or purple sector 1 even from Kurt. It's all immaterial anyway, because he threw it away the next corner. But I was not quite on board with you saying that it not affected him all that much.
Yeah, the 10th of a second off the pole time of Will Devenish wasn't a huge deficit, but what cost him was going deep there and into the marbles at turn 3. And speaking of fine margins, we've got Tim Redmond actually up by .001 on his own PB at Sector 1 split. So they're the kind of margins that we're dealing with here as he's on his way up to turn 4. Still remains to be said, fantastic showing from the Kiwis in race 1, and they're representing pretty well here in qualifying 2. So Redmond in 5th, Cheese in 8th, Snipes in 9th, Stancliffe's just sort of dropped down now to 12th, but has, I think, much better race pace compared to his quali pace in Redmond. Just a little bit too greedy. Just a little bit too greedy on the loud pedal out of the final corner. He will get another lap, but he's going to rejoin the circuit. He's going to spend the next lap scrubbing all that garbage off his tyres and then setting a flying lap. Now, Will Devenish has given Pete Savage a little bit of a tow here. Now, I'm wondering this might be tactical here to try and push Stenberg down the order, but Savage has got to find a 10th and a half here to go for the front row, and that's a really good start. That's actually better than the pole man's time at the moment. Huge amount of curb usage at turn 3, though, it has to be said. So
he's really throwing that thing around. He just actually set that time for 3rd place. He was in the draft of Will that entire last lap around. He's going for it now. He's got the loosest settings on that car. Very nice through turn 4 this time.
Lost a lot of time, though.
Yeah, and I think that most of that would have been on the curb at turn 3. He did have a good last sector as Luke Rosella now jumps into 2nd place. 21.7 in the final sector for him sees him go into the 207.3s. Savage just a little too happy on that loud pedal on the final corner. He'll have another go at it. Very exciting first part of the lap for him. And let's see if he can replicate a better lap this time around.
Yeah, it was a purple sector by a country mile in Sector 1 as well. It was a 23.5, which is the quickest of anybody, but he's not going to get another lap now. He's out in the weeds, and that will see his qualifying session over. So essentially it now boils down to what can Kurt Stenberg do, who will get another lap using a wide line here just to try and set it up for one last bite at the cherry. It was I think he must have got a track cut in the middle sector because I didn't get a 2nd sector time on the live timing for him. And this is his last throw of the dice. So we'll stay with him to see what he can do at the Sector 1 split. Incidentally, just having a look down the order as well, a couple of drivers that have qualified a bit better than what they were in qualifying 1. Cheese and NZ Snipes doing well. Brenton Foley's dropped down a couple of spots. Remember, he was sub 1 minute 8 at the in the first qualifying session. He is currently at 8.1 behind Termo's 8 flat.
And the time has gone down now, so everyone's finishing their last laps. Will Devenish doesn't improve. NZ Snipes goes up into 8th. Roddy's going to come across the line next.
And Stenberg's going to lose his lap here because he was wide at turn 4, Flood. So I don't think this is going to be an improvement for Stenberg. If at best, it's going to put him onto the 2nd row if he can keep it together. If he can find a little bit through his thing here, but the car's sliding all over the place. So he may get 1st row, but no, he doesn't get there in the end. So that's the end of that chapter for him. And Rosella maintains 2nd. Devenish will hang on to 1st place. And Stenberg's promptly shown his frustration at the end of that one. And there are no more cars on timed laps. So everybody is across the line. So that means that Will Devenish has another pole. So that takes his pole tally on the season up to 3, which is equal with his teammate. So 3 poles for Will, 3 poles for Pete Savage, and 2 poles for, a pole for Stenberg, and I think the other one was a pole for Cole Warwick, if memory serves me correctly, out of Adelaide. So 4 drivers sharing the pole positions as we very quickly tick over into 5-minute warm-up session, and we'll see what what the game plan is here for some of these drivers. Are they going to practice pit stops, in laps, out laps, starting? What is the order of the day here, Flood? What's the flavour of the day, do you think?
I think for Will, he's going to practice his start, and we know that about Will. And if he wants to challenge. I think something that I've noticed with Will commentating on a bunch of different series is that he is a good leader, a incredible chaser, but he's not a calm chaser. He does find his way into making mistakes. So I think if he gets out in front and takes the lead early and manages to give himself a car length, 2 car lengths of a buffer, he might just run away with it. But to do that, even if he's on the front of the grid, he needs to beat Kurt to turn 1, and he didn't last time, and he got bitten for it. Rosella, I think he puts on the oldest tires that he has and puts some laps in, because he was very uncomfortable at the end of that last race. I did a little bit of digging on his lap times at the end of the last race, because we were both confused, weren't we, Steve, about how far his lap times went away. His last 4 laps were a 9.1, a 9.3, a 10.5, and then he finished with a 12.2. So he talked about the tires hitting a cliff there. If the same happens to him this race, he really needs to manage it better. So I think he puts on the oldest tires he has and just does a few laps. That would be at least what I do. For Kurt, I don't know. I don't even think, you just don't touch it. Just leave it there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that's probably the order of the day for me. Yeah, otherwise, yeah, let's get into it. I'm keen for a second race. If it's as action-packed as the first one, bring it on.
A couple of guys, I think, are just sort of getting impatient to get a wriggle on here. There's a couple of guys that just want to know if the session is going to continue or if we've going to see it out. I think we're probably going to see it out until they, a few guys just going to the bathroom, or a couple of guys actually, I think, go and have a cigarette between races or between qualifying sessions. There's a few guys that need to get their fix, and we'll just probably wait to see that one out.
They put it in the lap that good, did they?
They put it in the lap that good. They need to go and to get themselves to cover themselves in glory. Or I think there's a whole bunch of. I've learned so much from working in transport. A lot of people smoke, so that's issue number one. That's one thing that I've learned. Issue number two, a lot of people have different terminology for cigarettes. Obviously, the common one is smokes. There's fags, which is obviously a bit of a derogatory comment in if you're being political correct. Lung lollies was a new one that I had found from one of the guys that he's actually British, but that was his one. I can't. There's about a half a dozen of them now that I've actually. The one that obviously used to get me was cancer sticks, but.
I don't like that one either.
I don't like them either, but there's more. There's more and more and more, and I've just learnt so many different things that everybody has a different name for it. I don't know why. It's like drugs in society. There's a whole bunch of different things that they can refer to a drug to try and get throw people off the scent. But everyone's cottoned onto it.
Yeah, well, today I learned. Lung lolly. I definitely don't like that one.
Yeah, that's It's just the guys going. Once I come back from having a lung lolly, I'll be right with you. It's like, okay. So yeah, it sort of says enough about what's going on. But there's a few guys. Speaking of lungs, there was a little bit of a coming together just a few seconds ago. There, Brody goes back to his pit bay, and we'll have a look at this on the Smith and Sons replay. He would have had inhaled a fair bit through his lungs, I would think, after this one. So they were coming in, I think, to do a practice and in-lap. So that's NZ Snipes behind. And the pace that NZ Snipes arrives at is enough to give Red a love tap. So there you go.
A few guys practicing starts on the back straight and on the main straight at the moment as well. Just trying to dot the I's and cross the T's.
Yeah, here's another one. Matt Cecil's coming back around to the start-finish line. And is he going to slow down and take a start? No, he's actually doing some flying laps. So there's different schools of thought here. There's guys that just want to get their practice in and just get as many laps under their belt as they can, just get a comfort thing. There's guys that have a different, philosophy and a different sort of practice program. They will do starts. Some of them will just do a start out of pit lane. Some of them will actually do a start somewhere on the circuit, like Higginson's just done on the dirty side of the road on the run between 2 and 3.
It looks like Lion Mitch and Peter Savage are doing a pair of starts now.
Yeah, so they're actually on the start-finish line spot. There you go. There's Mitch and Pete Savage in the background, just trying to minimise the wheel spin. And for Pete Savage, very, very important for him. He's only had that Fanatec wheel for about 3 or 4 weeks now. I think this is week 3. He got it just in time for the last round at Phillip Island. and he's had to spend a bit of time getting used to it. But I mean, she didn't really show any ill effect because he went out and promptly set the track record.
As you do.
As you do. And we have now gone to 0 in this session, so there'll be a couple of drivers that will just cross the line, set their final laps, and I would then imagine we will be on to the final race of the night. Race 8 of the championship. Geez, we're knocking them off really quickly. There's only 20 races in the year, 2 races per night, 10 rounds in the season, and we're about to knock off race number 8. And there's, of course, that really big gap between rounds 8 and 9 for the Enduro Cup, which we're hoping to have a little bit more on that in the next month or so.
And if you guys put another race on the same day as Le Mans again, I swear I'm just going to leave the entire community.
No, there's definitely a few things in the works, but none for Le Mans at this stage. And
Good.
Actually, when is Le Mans, by the way? I've got actually.
Le Mans is, I think it's the 21st of August this year because of the prolonged difficulties in Europe around the whole coronavirus pandemic. It was, of course, meant to be June 17th, but they postponed it about 2 or 3 months ago. So yes, 21st of August, and I believe, just off the top of my head, you have a GT3 round scheduled for that day as well.
I haven't had a look at the calendar yet, but that's the next part of the equation that we'll have to start looking at is what happens around that, because I'm sure a few people will be interested in that one. It is a GT3 round if it is, because that's on a weekend.
Saturday. It is Maggie Cores that you've got planned. And I'm pretty sure as soon as you released the calendar, I was like, well, I'm not commentating that day.
You're very cringeworthy on that one. Now, we've just had a little bit of word come through. Scott Stancliffe has unfortunately had a small family issue he's had to go off and deal with. So he's not going to take part in this second race. So there will be a vacant grid spot on the grid. Probably, I think it's around 12th place, if memory serves me correctly, 12th or 11th place. Yep. That will be absent. So we're just getting word through from Tim Redmond that is the case. So just the 1 car less for this one. Still 25. The numbers are really, really healthy. I do want to give a really big shout out to all the drivers that have taken part so far in the series. Really healthy grid numbers, and really, really encouraging. So keep it up, guys, as Flood rolls through this grid for the second time tonight.
For the second time tonight, it will be Will Devenish starting from pole position. Another cracking lap from him to start us off from pole. He has Luke Rosella for company this time out. First time the Mustang has been on the front row, at least tonight, I think. Third place is Kurt Stenberg, who was the first race winner. Let's see if he can do that from third on the grid. And then Will's teammate, Peter Savage, out of fourth. Tim Redmond is the head of the Kiwis in 5th place, and he has Brenton Foley for company in 6th. Brendan Ross starts from 7th place, and he has Turmo completing row 4 with him. NZ Snipe starts from 9th, an improvement on his qualifying position from race 1, and he has Cheese for company on row 5, and that is your top 10. Scott Nolan starts down from 11th, and he has Freakish alongside him in 12th. Steve Burko will start from 13th. With Cam Rutledge of CRE Race Engineering in 14th. Steve Warwick will start from 15th, and Darren Kemp in the Mustang guest car will start in 16th. Peter Thrall will be in 17th position, and 18th will be Lime Mitch. He's got a bit of a ways to go to get where he wants to be. Remember, he DNF'd in race 1 tonight. Nathan Higginson starts from 19th. Ujit Mishra rounds out the top 20 cars. Matt Cecil driving Lewis Wedding's Loose Sim Sport machine will start 21st. Lachlan Locke driving Lachlan Burke's Hype Sim Sport team car starting from 22nd. Justin Cecil in the Penrite Kelly Grove wildcard in 23rd. Rhodey starting from the pit lane tonight, looking to avoid the carnage. He was listed as 24th rather. And Dane Liccardo once again did not set a lap in qualifying due to a rear grid start penalty. He rounds out a 25 car grid for race 2 this evening.
Yeah, there's all cars gridding up as they head to their grid spots. So looks like that they've actually put everybody in order for this one. And everybody looks like they are set to go. Pretty quick warm-up this time. And as we look to the lights, they are on and away we go for race number 2. And another poor start for Will Devenish yet again. And the squeeze job is on. So Savage moved across to got a much better start. Stenberg put the squeeze on. Tim Redmond's moved up there as well. Will Devenish going backwards through the field. 5th place already. Tag! And there's a big tag moment there going on. That's Tim Redmond, who has been tagged, is off the road and is falling through the field like a stone. And I fear that that is probably a contact that was avoidable, as the field streams on the run down to turn 3. Terma having a big lunge. Foley with a big lunge. Major contact there as well in the early going.
And Foley redresses that, but that causes more complications. 3 wide on the exit of turn 3, and that forces his teammate Brendan Ross off the road, and that was all because of the compression in the midfield there. They're still going 2 by 2 down in towards turn 4. Turbo this time on the inside of Cam Rutledge. Ryan Mitch up a few spots. He's now made it up to 15th, but Dane Liccardo from the rear of the grid, he's up 9 spots as the first lap melee continues.
And there's some major beneficiaries out of this as well. The 2 Nissans of Cheese and NZ Snipes have profited massively from the carnage at the front. She's up 4 spots. NZ Snipes is just ahead. He's also made 4 spots. The 5th and 6th go the Nissans, and they've also jumped ahead there of Steve Burko. Scott Nolan's had a pretty good start here as well, and actually just noticed that Lion Mitch has gone and changed his name in between sessions, but we'll leave that one alone. Went back and had a look at the replay to see what happened with Tim Redmond, and there definitely was some contact with Will Devenish, who was just a little bit caught up in all the carnage. There's a bit more carnage going on at the back there, and I think that one is definitely going to be reviewed after this one is over, because I think that one was very much avoidable.
Yeah, unfortunate for Will. He had a shocking start. We were talking about how important the start had to be for him, and he got absolutely swallowed. So come the exit of turn 1, when he finally got some pace behind him, just got a tiny little bit of an overlap with the rear of Redmond's machine, and a little bit of contact was enough to turn Redmond to the inside. So
Burko's in trouble here. He's actually been passed by Nolan. He's getting boxed out by Cheese as well. Cheese as well. Who's just it's a couple of guys just having a couple of mistakes fighting up and down the field. So this is really like playing for sheep stations. Now, Steve Warwick's had a pretty reasonable start too, but this is a really angry pack, and Liccardo's caught right at the tail end of it, and he can process these guys. This is actually good for Liccardo. These guys are fighting away. He could probably smell a top 10, I think, if these guys keep going hammer and tongs and nose to tail at it. He's going to benefit from this enormously.
Have a look at this train. Nolan, Burko, Cheese, Ross, Fukius, Warwick, Rutledge, Termo, Liccardo, Lion Mitch, and Nathan Higginson, 6th to 16th, as they all file down into turn 3. Few little late dives, few little nudges there, but they all seem to get through. Liccardo picks off Lion Mitch and might even grab Rutledge on the exit there. Great exit from Liccardo. Look at how he got that power down. Gets past the CRE electrical machine and moves himself up into 13th place.
This is a much better drive in the opening couple of laps. No contact for Liccardo on this one so far. The next man in the queue is going to be Termo and Steve Warwick. Now, he's going to be careful here. How does he process this one? Is he going to? Don't tell me he's going to go the long way. Don't tell me he's going to go the long way around the outside, the pair of them. He's got one. Geez, he threads that gap. And then down the inside. What a fantastic move!
Wow!
That is got to be the power pass of the night so far. Inside, outside to middle to inside. 2 cars just like that. Worthy of a Smith & Sons replay. This one is going to go in the highlight reel.
Wow, that's an incredible move. Have a look at this. Goes to the outside, lets Termo and Warwick battle it on the inside. Manages to find the Commodore-sized gap between the pair of them on the cutback, and just drives out the other side like it's no one's business. What a move.
I've not seen that anywhere in any racing in the real world, let alone in the sim world. But that the stars just aligned perfectly for him on that one.
It was a Commodore-sized hole, and it was like the 4-year-old with the blocks just slotted it straight in the right spot. Well done, Dane.
That is fantastic. That's the move of the night. I've got to say, probably the move of the year. I think that's got to be a contender for probably pass of the year at this stage. There hasn't been too many, really good top draw passes like that this year, and I think that one has got to be up there as a contention for the end of year awards as being probably one of the best passes of the year so far, as they all file through. So Rosella with an 8 flat is the quickest lap of the race, set on lap 4 as the field continues on, and he's at the head of this field and enjoys a very nice small buffer at the moment, 1.4 seconds back to Peter Savage, and I can just see Kurt Stenberg in the background here. He's just having a little bit. We've had a bit of a moment just with the cameras for a split second, but Kurt, I could see it happening. He was there. It was as the cameras now finally pick up the action, and we go to the replay here because I could see this happening in the background just as we were watching Luke Rosella, and Kurt was lining up the pass. I think he had it all locked up, didn't he, Flood?
Oh, absolutely. He was well deep under brakes there.
Here he comes.
And, yeah, you can just see all of a sudden, bam. It was a big hit too. I was surprised that Peter managed to actually gather that up and like play on after that. Very, very nice. But if that had turned Peter around, there would have been some serious cries to race control from the CRE pair there. Because of course, while Peter is doing a good job of fighting for this second position, his teammate Will Devenish sits behind this pair, and it doesn't look to be making any inroads. His last lap around a 8.7, so he was slower than the top 3, and he's not really getting anywhere at this stage of the race.
Is he preserving? This is what I sort of worry. Is he actually preserving a little bit here and a little bit too early, and then maybe going to try and make a 5 or 6 lap run at Savage and Stenberg on the run to the pits? He's going to try and do the same thing that he did last time, where it didn't quite work for him because he ended up off the road at turn 2. That's my worry. He has pace in hand. I reckon he's not showing his hand here yet. He's just trailing after these guys and just staying in touch, and then maybe he's going to try that move again, but my God, he's going to have to be really careful.
I'm just going to direct our attention to Liccardo and Cheese battling for 9th and 10th. Liccardo just easing his way up the inside through turn 5. Very nicely done, constructed that move on the exit of 3. This battle pack's been still going on, and they're going to go side by side through 6. On Will Devenish, I think what Will might be trying to do this lap, this time around is what I call the Shane Van Gisbergen strategy. Run long and clean everyone up with the fresh tyres at the end as Liccardo wraps around the front of Cheese to take that 9th position. He's done very well. That compresses the field though. Cheese, a little bit of nose-to-stab contact between Turnwell and Lion Mitch in the middle of turn 1. Very tight run stuff. They all managed to eke out the other side. So yeah, because Will is one of the best passers in the field, he can do that if he gets on the right tyres. This is still going on. Turbo now on the inside of Cheese as they head into turn 3. Does well there, maybe a bit too narrow on exit, but gets the overlap and a little bit of sideways action as well to go with it, but takes 10th place from Cheese.
And it's a better showing from Freakish as well at the moment. So Cheese's teammate, they're yet to decide on what the team name's going to be when they do take those full-time seats, but he's had a pretty nice run through the opening phase of this race as well. He's only lost the 1 spot, started 12th, is now 13th, but he's nicely tacked on to the battle group here, and can probably see another 1 or 2 spots being made up as the race wears on. Tim Redmond's recovering well after his off, dropped him right down the field, all the way down as far as 24th, because of course Rhodey was in the pits with the pit lane start, and Redmond is in the processing cars as quickly as he can. This is very much going to be a recovery drive for him.
Oh. Kurt Stenberg has just completely collected Peter Savage at the head of the field, almost in the rear. In the end, had to do the big block pass. I reckon it might be worth a redress there, but is he doing it?
Oh no,
he's still holding position.
There's actually a bonnet missing from the Rhodey car that they just managed to get past, but we will take a look at that one on the Smith & Sons replay. It did happen down at turn 3. Here it comes now, and he was trying to... Oh, it was a late lunge there, and...
I think... Oh... And then, yeah, that was the issue for me. I think he completely missed his braking marker and then only just managed to pull it up. But the problem was Peter was kind of already trying to occupy the same space. I think that one might need just a little bit of a look because Stenberg, I don't think he even meant to make that move. I think he just kind of... He just was like, well, I missed my braking marker. I guess I'll throw it down the inside.
Yeah, definitely not an intentional pass or an intentional contact. That's, I guess, the key point to take out of it. So from Stenberg's point of view, he thinks that it might be play on. Stewards might see otherwise, but we'll see what happens with this. Now, this is important because Rosella enjoyed a 1.7 second margin over Pete Savage the last time around, still at 1.7 seconds at the Sector 1 split. But this does unleash Stenberg to try and pull some of that margin back. But Savage is actually staying step for step with him in the minute, and in fact they've lost a 10th in that middle sector, so it's not all bad news for Rosella just yet. And the part that Will Devenish probably won't like with this is that Savage probably could have just been being a little bit of help to him in the early going, and now he's got to do all that work again. Will he actually resend the pass down at turn 3? That'll be the next opportunity that Savage will be eyeing off. And a little bit of inside curb for him on this occasion. Follows Stenberg through 2, stays off the curb, and has a pretty reasonable run, it's fair to be said. In the draft, there is car number 58, and no, decides not to pull the trigger on this occasion.
The mind games have started early. Well, I say started early. We're already on lap 10 of this race. It's gone by quick. There's been plenty to talk about. Wanted to comment on a few movers and shakers through the field. NZ Snipes up 4 positions to 5th. Scott Nolan up 5 positions to 6th. Steve Burko up 6 positions to 7th. And then completely breaking the trend, Dane Liccardo up 17 places into 8th. Made a move on Brendan Ross around turn 6 to take that 8th place. He's doing a drive. Oh, Scott Nolan's actually just made a mistake at turn 4. That's allowed Steve Burko to sneak through. So that puts Burko into 6th and Nolan into 7th. And as another target, just in reach of Dane Liccardo. So he might find his way into the top 5 tonight.
And what,
surely not.
And what the interesting part of this equation here, Flood, is that Liccardo is quicker than all 3 of the cars ahead of him, Snipes, Burko and Nolan. So you can see there, Nolan last minute 10.76, which is a bit of an outlier, but if we do all the numbers ahead, so Snipes was a 9.7, Burko a 9.6, Nolan's 10.6, which is a little bit of the outlier. Before that, I think it was a 9.7, and Liccardo with a 9.5. So that's actually Liccardo's slowest lap of the race so far, but before that he was down to a 9 flat, so he's gaining. You can see here he's right now on the back bumper of Synergy Sim Racing car number 18, and probably eyeing off a move, I would say, probably not this lap unless Scotty makes a mistake, but I dare say he'll be lining it up for turn 3, which is the favoured passing spot next time around. He's not close enough this time to have a real look at the back of Scott Nolan. And there's a safety car, so the safety car's been triggered, so this neutralises this field, so this is really important. So there's actually a car that has gone off somewhere. Who is it?
Justin Cecil at turn 3. It's position number 20.
And they're reacting. They're reacting in pit lane. So Nolan in, Brendan Ross in. So too is that Lime Mitch, or is that Urjit Mishra that's come in? So there's and Redmond in as well. So this benefits Tim Redmond enormously, because this is probably the miracle that he wanted. And you can see everybody is in at for the guys that were able to catch it at the right time. Brenton Foley in there too, and Scott Nolan is in and away. Now,
it's Lime Mitch in the pits for the Tamiya pair. Mishra stayed out on circuit. The thing is, you can't get to the end here, not on the soft. So we might see if you guys go to the hard tyre and see if they can get to the end. Perhaps I would love someone right now to put on a pair of softs, roar through the field on hards, and then do a late stop and see if they can get
Redmond.
Oh no, Tim!
Drive-through penalty for Tim Redmond. So the safety car coming at the right time for him, unfortunately, has not worked out the way he wanted it. And he'll have to wait and to serve that under green as well. So this is the trouble for him. And
that is what we call a big oof.
Yeah, that is a big oof indeed. Now we still don't know who where the problem came from. Justin Cecil, sorry, you're right. Justin Cecil was the one that had the drama,
and it was with Steve Warwick. So they actually got into some pretty hefty contact on the exit of turn 3. So both two-car incident, both cars came to a complete stop. So that's why the safety car was called. Interestingly, though, of that front group, only one driver took the pit stop. and that was Kurt Stenberg, who now finds himself down in 11th place.
Now, I would suggest that that is probably the smart thing to do, is to take that stop and get it over and done with, because the guys at the head of the queue now they're committed now.
Yeah.
They cannot. They have to find a way to make this work. Now we've just got a replay coming up here. We're about to go and have a look at the Smith and Sons renovations and extensions replay to have a look at this incident. So this is the cause of the safety car. So Justin Cecil on the outside. Here comes Steve Warwick down the inside. So there's a bit of a lock up there, and it seemed innocuous, but it's actually Cecil lost it on his own, and then got run into by Peter Thrower. So Thrower was the man in the wrong position at that point in time. So that's what's triggered the safety car.
Yeah, just a little tap just on the acceleration point is what turned Cecil around there. Unfortunate for that group. Is this the first safety car we've had at QR?
This is probably the first one that's been for quite some time. I can't recall there being a safety car the last time we were here in 2019, and I don't think there was one in Porsche Cup last year either. So, and there definitely wasn't one in series gone by, such as TCR Oz, which I think did 2 trips to QR. I know there was definitely one, but definitely 2 trips, plenty of trips here. This is probably been a long time coming. So you can see here, there's Kurt Stenberg. He's buried in there just behind the ASR, the ASR Guest Mustang of Darren Kemp. And as the field cycles past, here comes Scott Nolan onto the back of the train.
Now, I would love to know what tyres Kurt has put on, because if he's put on hards, he's probably going to try and run to the end. But if he's put on softs, there's no way he can get to the end of the race on a set of softs this far out. We're assuming the safety car's going to come in maybe this lap or the next lap, and I think that's still going to be too early. It might be, his strategy might be to walk through the field here on the softs, pit again, and then come through the field again. I think, on the other hand, the guys up the front are going to be trying to just get to that critical lap number, hope that the guys behind them have gone to hards, stretch out as much of an advantage as they can, and then do the same thing again, try and come through the field with the tyre compound advantage. And Will Devenish has jumped in the pits, as has NZ Snipes. Now, this might be to go onto another set of softs. Maybe with the safety car out, they can save a bit of rubber on the tyre and keep it together a bit longer. It's very fascinating strategy plays that we could be seeing here, because you would assume that they'd go green next time by, right? If three laps is normally the criteria?
Yeah, it's about 3 laps is what we expect to see. So, sorry, I'm just cycling through looking at everybody on the wrong camera. So, Will Devenish, NZ Snipes. There's one of the cars there in the lane. That'll be the Limage car. And Tim Redmond came in again. Now, of course, he's just taken a new set of boots, and he is going to have to tour the lane when the flag goes green. So Devenish out. Now, this is... I hate to say this. So he's come out on lap 15. So he's got to do 17 laps now on this set of tyres. There, he doesn't want to be... Promise you don't want to torture them too hard on this outlap to get to the back of the grid, but you've got to make up time. You cannot lose any time. So it's a really difficult situation for Will Devenish. The car has the safety car's come out at a really awkward time for the field. We've seen this in GT3 so many times over the years, Flood. You know this better as much as I do. There's been some really difficult decisions that have to be made when the safety car comes out. Can you get there on the smell of an oily rag? Can you make the tyres last? Do you have to switch to a different tyre compound? There's so many permutations going through your mind. As a 10-second stop-go penalty has been issued for Cam Rutledge. I'm not sure what that's in regards to. Might be out of position or something along those lines. But I know Lewis Wedding's in the session, and he will have a look at that one. But we're going back to green flag here with Rosella heading the field from Savage. And there's a major contact. There is contact at the back of the field. Now, Steve Warwick's been turned around, and Nolan's in this as well. So I don't think we're going to get another safety car, but something definitely went wrong there at the restart. Maybe a few guys were checking up. Let's go and have a little bit of a look, see if we can figure this one out. So coming around the final corner, Scott Nolan And, oh, there was Ujit Mishra got into, oh, and that's just collected Nolan. So Ujit Mishra got into the back of Steve Warwick, and then when Warwick bounced back onto the track, Nolan had absolutely nowhere to go and was minding his own business.
There's more going on. Peter Thrower and Justin Cecil have made contact. Well, Peter Thrower into the end of Justin Cecil at the end of turn 3. They've both found the sand trap there. Few wounded cars at the moment. Rutledge is showing in 21st position. That's definitely not correct because he's in the top. He's currently just ahead of Will Devenish. That might be due in part to the penalty or some sort of malarkey. He lets Devenish and Lion Mitch go through, and Lion Mitch goes through on Devenish as well.
And Rosella's now coming in to take his stop under green, so this is going to be really difficult here. And there's also another one of the Tamiya cars is coming in as well, and Cam Rutledge too. So I think Mishra has actually come in to serve that penalty. And we go back to Scott Nolan, who inherits a couple of spots by those guys going into the pits. But this is going to take a little while for us to unravel, so stay with us here, folks. We just got to keep an eye out on what's going on. So Will Devenish has now moved his way up to 10th, having taken that stop. And the next man he has to process is AAR's Lime Mitch.
So let's just go through the field just to give people an idea of where everyone's at as Rody spins from 25th and Brendan Foley spins further back. Let's just go through the field, so let's us catch up as well. So Peter Savage leads the race. He did not pit in that sequence. He leads from Dane Liccardo, who, let's remind everyone, started from the back of the grid. So he's done a great job. He still has to pit. Termo, Steve Burko, Kurt Stenberg is the first of the drivers who has pit, but he pit right at the very beginning of that safety car period. So there's a question mark over whether or not he can get to the end as Burko comes into the pits. And Peter Savage as well, so a leader in the pits. Now we've got Nathan Higginson, Darren Kemp, Lime Mitch, who has pit, Will Devenish, who has pit, NZ Snipes, who has pit, Cheese, Brendan Ross, Freakish, Scott Nolan, Brendan Foley, Lachlan Locke, and Peter Savage still in the pits. Tim Redmond down in 17th after taking that drive-through penalty, and Luke Rosella taking that pit stop under green, 18th place, 36 seconds away from Dane Liccardo.
Yeah, so Rosella's got to be banking here on the fact that Kurt Stenberg's tyres are going to fall off a cliff, or that there's another safety car, and then that forces to close the field back up. So he's in a really bad position here. And what this has completely turned the race on its head, this safety car. The guys that were able to get the stops done early are the beneficiaries from this one, and they are pretty much, they're right in the game now. So,
assuming that the tyres hang on, assuming that they've gone to softs and the tyres hang on, or if they go to if they've gone to hards and don't lose too much pace. It doesn't look like they're losing too much pace because Liccardo is on the old tyres, and Kurt Stenberg, who's made a few moves this lap, has put in a 9.4, so not the best from Stenberg.
I'm wondering if Stenberg's actually trying to preserve a little bit here because he's got to go a little bit longer than the otherwise ideal optimum tyre stint based on what everybody else has done. Liccardo now actually leads this race, and he wants to defend. So this is, and this is not
from Stenberg.
From Stenberg. Now this is a battle that I think Dane probably just needs to learn to sidestep the argument, and he does. And that is because he is yet to pit, from what our understanding is. So he has to play the long game here and work out when he actually comes in. So that then moves car number 1 back to position number 1 in this race as we rapidly try and figure out what's going on here. Now the other car that's in this equation, you can just see there is Matt Cecil in 20th place. Now he is about to go 1 lap down. And there it is to the race leader, and the next man that's next to it, and there goes Liccardo. So that confirms he is yet to stop. And
I think Termo as well is yet to stop. 108.8 from Stenberg, so that suggests to me that he might have the softs on, and that is a long stint to do on the softs. Remember, he came in right at the beginning of that safety car period, so that would be lap 13. So that's almost 20 laps to do on a pair of soft tyres. That's going to be torture.
Okay, and then we've got Will Devenish now. He's dragging along a couple of cars with him. He's dragging along Lime Mitch and NZ Snipes, and Cheese is not too far off the back of this group as well. So this is good results for the Kiwis yet again. They're going to fly the flag really proudly now that Tim Redmond's out of the equation. Rosella, has set a 107.746. That is approximately 1/100th off the race lap record. So he's gunning for it. I think he wants that one on the mantelpiece. He's got to find a hair more time to get that lap record away from Ethan Warren in race trim.
So the gap between Rosella and Stenberg is 31 seconds. So that is the gap for the effective race lead. We're assuming at this point that Stenberg is going to try and get to the end on whatever tyre he's got, whether that's the hard or the softs. The last lap around, that was 1.1 seconds back towards Rosella. That equation does not work out for Rosella, unfortunately. So he has to find more time, whether that be through driving faster, which would be incredible, or the tyres going off for Kurt. So we'll have to wait and see to see how this plays out between those guys. On the other hand, the likes of Will Devenish and Liam Mitch, who came in at the tail end of that safety car, they are only 6 seconds away from the lead, is Will Devenish. And the last lap around for him was a 8.7 versus an 8.9 for Stenberg. So a little bit of a better equation for Will. It's going to be really interesting to see how the strategies play out in another, 10 minutes time?
Yeah, in about another 10 minutes, I think it'll all sort of culminate. It's actually a really good battle unfolding here for the last step on the rostrum as it stands right now, with Liam Mitch having to defend really, really heavily from NZ Snipes, and Cheese is just biding his time here as well. NZ Snipes has had a couple of nibbles on this lap down at turn 3 and 4, and he's having another one down here at turn 6, and this is probably the best one of the lot because it's going to allow him to hold on the inside for turn 1, and that puts the driver that has stopped in this race up into a net third position as it stands right now. But have a look at Liam Mitch right around the outside at turn 1.
Yeah, Snipes was a little bit conservative there with the braking point, and Liam Mitch inviting Liam Mitch to go around the outside, and Mitch takes that invitation, and Cheese is going to take this invitation as well. They're going two by one down the back straight. Cheese is pushing them down the back straight. It's going to be very tight to see who pops out the other side. Snipes goes deep, forces Mitch wide, but Mitch can hang it out there. Cheese tries to buy into it, and they end up as they were.
Wow, and on top of that, I just noticed Freakish is starting to close in on these guys as they start to battle. So it actually puts 3 of the 4 Nissans. Safety car again. So another one is called. That neutralised this field.
Mishra on the main straight, position 19.
So Urjit Mishra is the cause of this one. We cut to the AAR Tamiya Mustang, and we go and have a look at a replay. So this is a massive let-off for guys that have had some drums here. Oh, we'll just actually see what happened here. It's actually not his fault. It's actually Lockie Locke, who's had a tank slapper moment and nowhere to go, and the pair of them have gone pirouetting down the main straight, so much so that they've ended up in the faded into the wall there. So there's...
And we've got pit stoppers as well while you've been talking, Nether. Scott Nolan in the pits, both PBF guys in the pits, Ross and Foley, side by side. And actually, it's Ross who's going to poke out just ahead. By the way, looking at where, for example, Luke Rosella and Peter Savage, Dane Liccardo in 10th position at the moment, and he's going to be squashed up in with all these big names around him. He could be on for a very good result here. But more importantly, up the front, Kurt Stenberg, any advantage he had over Will Devenish is now almost entirely evaporated. He has one lap car as Brenton Foley gets a drive-through for, I assume that's going to be...
Pit lane speeding.
Pit lane speeding.
Yep, he came out behind Brendan Ross, and that's going to scupper any chances he had of a good result if they weren't gone already. And we can see the HSV Camaro safety car is pulling the field around the final corner at the moment. Now, there are a couple of cars that are out of position here that we're going to have to start to factor in. The 2 substitutes in Lockie Locke and Matt Cecil. Lap traffic to Will Devenish here, and then this has brought NZ Snipes right into this equation now, and I think he's got the second best tyres of the lot. People like Will Devenish has got slightly better tyre set than Kurt Stenberg, but this gives everybody a reprieve. So this is the bit that they all sort of don't, that everyone sort of doesn't know about each other, is that whatever lap you stopped on, if it was, sort of, for Kurt Stenberg, I think it was lap 13 or 14,
13, yeah.
This is now giving him a reprieve. He's not burning through that tyre set at the rate that he originally was. And
is it going to be enough, though? Is it going to be enough?
that's the big question. Is it actually going to be enough to make this work?
So let's have a quick look at the field as everyone sort of sorts themselves out under safety car. Stenberg straight behind the safety car train. Matt Cecil in the mix there. Then it is Will Devenish. Devenish pitted 3 laps after Stenberg. So Devenish has 3 laps fresher tyres and can probably get to the end. NZ Snipes in 3rd place behind Will Devenish. Lime Mitch behind NZ Snipes. They all pit together with Devenish. Then it is Cheese and Freakish. What's the most freakish cheese you know? Nether, that can be their team name. I'm thinking Gorgonzola.
Well, there we go, guys. You've had a name offered to Flood, and if you use that name, I think you owe him one.
I put a endurance chat sticker on your car, and it's all even. Then it's Tim Redmond, who, remember, had the drive-through penalty as well, and is somehow in 7th place. And then Luke Rosella, Peter Savage, Dane Liccardo. These were the guys who pit under green flag conditions at the end of the safety car. So they can definitely go to the end, and they're going to have quite fresh tyres. Steve Burko, Termo, Nathan Higginson, Brendan Ross, who's pit a 2nd time. So he's on absolutely fresh rubber. Look for him to make some moves. Darren Kemp, Brendan Foley has a drive-through to take, so he will drop out of the mix. Scott Nolan, pit for fresh rubber. Look for him to make some moves. Urjit Mishra, Matt Cecil, who's now a lap down, Lachlan Locke, Peter Thrower, Cam Rutledge, Justin Cecil, Steve Warwick, and Rhodey. So a lot going on, and we've got 7 laps left at the moment. It might be a 6 or 5 lap dash to the end. Do you reckon that's enough time for Kurt to hold on?
It's going to be touch and go. So the longer the safety car goes on, the better it is, I think, for Stenberg's tyres. It means that there's going to be some meat. There's going to be at least something for him to fight with. It'll now be a matter of how quickly Will Devenish can process Matt Cecil in car 777 there, the Mentone Premix Mustang, and get through. And if I was Will Devenish, he needs to be pretty much right on the rear boot lid, as one of my mates, Dave Amor, would say, of Matt Cecil as they come to the start-finish line. Now, the thing about this is Stenberg has got the luxury, once the safety car goes in, of being able to pull the trigger pretty much when he likes. And you can't pass before the start the control stripe. So if Devenish is going to make any moves, he's got to be right there and pretty much react to exactly what happens, with absolutely split-second reflexes. You've got no choice. Now,
what about the light? Oh, sorry, safety car off?
Is the safety car in, or are we going round again? No, safety car's in. So safety car has come in. So a very short safety car period as we get ready to go back to green. Now, Stenberg, look at them all. They're all peeking out here. It's all single file restart. They're all peeking out, and here we go. So off goes Stenberg, and that's actually a very good restart because Devenish was not there to make the move on Matt Cecil. Now he's got to think about getting this job done at turn 3, and then he's got to get on with it. So Stenberg, if he needs to make any margin, he needs to do it now. And Devenish has got it done on the Exeter too. So Devenish has actually done, it's happened to him pretty well there.
No, we've got another accident at the back. Peter Savage in the wall.
Yeah,
Steve Warwick.
There's a big one happening back there, and you can see them all just off his bonnets and things flying absolutely everywhere. And Devenish is off the road at 3. So he's gone way too deep, and he's going to lose heaps of spots here. So Devenish down to 5th. That's going to put Cheese to 4th, Mitch to 3rd. NZ Snipes has now earned himself 2nd step on the rostrum as it stands right now. Can he stay there?
And Devenish needs to pull it now. He's made that mistake. He can't fight back too quickly because otherwise he's going to go in too hot ahead. Immediately makes a move back on Cheese, which I think Cheese was very wise to and gave him a bit more space. But yeah, Devenish is going to just have a bit of a cool head here as Cecil runs himself wide to get out of the way. Redmond coming through. Dane Liccardo past Luke Rosella and, of course, Peter Savage, who we saw in the wall there. Bit of a mental restart, but we have 5 laps left now, and Kurt Stenberg already has a 2nd lead over NZ Snipes, then Lime Mitch, Will Devenish, and Cheese.
Here comes your man, Dane Liccardo, 18 spots on the day so far, and can probably eye off another one. He's got to clear Matt Cecil, and then the next man is Tim Redmond. So Redmond having a really good recovery drive in this one. He was a bit of a beneficiary of some of the melee that was going on down at turn 3 on that last lap, and Liccardo is processing Cecil. Oh, was there some contact there?
No contact, just both ran deep. So Rosella's now snuck his way back through into 7th. Now Liccardo might be wise to just tack onto the back of Rosella and get Rosella to drag him back up through the field. The next target for them is Tim Redmond and Will Devenish versus Cheese, and Devenish is just kind of caught between Lion Mitch here, really looking to make a move into the final corner. Peels to the inside.
And for position here, and not quite far enough alongside to make that stick at that occasion.
And gives them a tap as well for good measure. Just keep a cool head, Will. It'll come as Liccardo goes very wide. Redmond makes the move on Cheese. He's done well to recover from a drive-through penalty. 5 laps left.
5 laps to go. Redmond has now made that move on Cheese. He just called it a few seconds ago. There it is. And
Snipes has made a mistake. Snipes has made a mistake. He's gone to the inside of the track and actually lost quite a lot of speed. So he's now dropped behind Lion Mitch. Will Devenish is going to get him on the run into 3 as well. Is he? Oh, it's brave. It's deep. It's
far enough. It's far enough alongside. A little bit of minor contact there. Cheese with a little bit of a lose off that corner as well. You can just see it in the back of shot as it was unfolding. We're watching from the back of Lion Mitch's number 13. And now Will Devenish sets his sights on P2. Big set from NZ Snipes, and that's going to lose him a spot to Redmond. So any podium hope for Snipes might have just evaporated with that one. But still has made quite a lot of spots in this race. And behind them, Luke Rosella now up to P6. Cheese in behind him, and Liccardo to 8th, and right in there as well, Burko and Termo rounding out the top 10 here. All the O's at the back end of this top 10. Termo and Burko and I don't know if there's another O in the field. Liccardo, there you go.
There you go. There you go. Cheese. So that all came about because Cheese's mistake on the exit of turn 3, and it compressed the field there. Rosella did well to get through. Liccardo's trying to force his way through at 2, and will get through at 2. So that's gonna cause this to be a lively battle pack as they come down towards turn 3. Liccardo, Burko, Cheese, and Termo. Burko goes deep around the outside.
He's got to leave him some room here, though. If he stayed alongside, he was going to have to leave him some room on the outside there, but Liccardo had cleared him, so that is 7th place. Now, Will Devenish
Rosella went around the outside of Snipes. Sorry, cutting over the top of you. Now, there's so much going on.
There is, and Will Devenish has finally cleared Lion Mitch for 2nd place, but the issue is he's got 2.6 seconds to Kurt Stenberg. So in all the calamity that Will Devenish has encountered on this safety car restart, he has not got much time to try and get to the rear bumper of Kurt Stenberg. And look at Tim Redmond. Redmond's not done here. Redmond is really going to threaten for P3, and this would be one hell of a recovery effort, albeit with 2 safety cars. It will have fallen his way. Lion Mitch really hanging on here, and Rosella, don't count him out of this either. If these 2 come to blows, he's right there.
So there's plenty to keep track of as the race goes through. Just want to keep an eye on as Lion Mitch goes all the way to the inside of the track towards turn 3, making sure to take away that attacking line from Tim. Does hold it into the apex, can Tim sneak through? There's a little bit of a touch, and that's going to cramp everyone up. Rosella's now going to buy into this. They head towards turn 4. He got a good run out of turn 3, right in the wheel tracks of Redmond. He goes to the outside, and they end up holding stations for the moment. Out front, the gap is currently about...
It's coming down. It's coming down. It's 1.4 seconds now. It was 2.6 the last time around, so Devenish is taking big monster chunks out of the advantage of Kurt Stenberg right now, and he's got 2 more laps. What is it when they get to the stripe this time around? Stenberg with a 9.2 and Devenish an 8.1. This is not over.
So 2 laps remaining. Lion Mitch goes to the inside for the battle for 3rd. We've got Lion Mitch, Tim Redmond, Luke Rosella, and then at the front we've got Stenberg versus Devenish. Remember, a significant tyre difference between those 2, and that's only going to get closer as the race gets to its what's going to be a thrilling conclusion here.
It's not over for all the positions. You can see them all just as they file past the still camera shot here, just unfolding. And here we go. We did say this was not over, and this is on. This is on like Donkey Kong. It's going to be hell for leather in the last lap. And here we go. Tim Redmond on behind the shot has gotten through for 3rd place. He's muscled his way around the outside at 3, used all of the escape road at turn 3 to get that job done. And Rosella's gone through as well.
And check out behind them, Dane Liccardo into 6th place. He's gotten through that group. He might even get through.
Oh, he's had a massive two-wheel moment there at turn 5 as well, and he's somehow managed to keep it on the track for the moment. But here comes NZ Snipes, and Liccardo's have to pull all the defensive dance moves, but that's gone awry for him. And Snipes is in there, Turmo's in there, Burko's in there, so this is going to be a fight to the death for these guys as they get going. Final lap
though out front. The gap is just on half a second. Stenberg, a 9 flat last lap around versus an 8.3 from Devenish. 7/10 will be enough for Devenish to take it, but he still has to make the pass.
He's got to do it at turn 3. If there's any spot, he's got to do it. It's got to be down here. He's got to think about the descent. He's really got to close this margin up. And Stenberg locking up. Devenish has a little bit of a look down here at the inside, but it's the wrong side for turn 4. How does this one play out? There's 3 more corners left to go.
The cutback is on. He goes down the inside. There's touch. There's a significant touch. Stenberg goes a little wide. The overlap's still there.
The tyres are going to be gone.
They go through 5.
Bit of pinching at the final corner here. Second to last corner here. Has Stenberg done enough to hold off Will Devenish? Late lunge. Not going to be close enough for Will Devenish. Stenberg is just going to hang on, I think, here. It was a tight run thing, but he's going to do it. And for the skin of his teeth, he holds on for a 1.5 second victory. And Redmond is going to get third after all this one is said and done. Rosella gets back to 4th. Limich 5th, so a couple of Mustangs inside the top 5. Turmo popped out the other side of that one with a pretty good result, 6th place ahead of Dane Liccardo, who's the perennial position getter on the day. Man of the driver of the day, I think there. NZ Snipes, who was as high as 2nd at one point, fades to 8th as everybody came through the field, and Steve Burko 9th. And Cheese has gone back to the garage with 10th place finish. So 3 Kiwis again inside the top 10. Good showing by those guys. And what a chaotic finish to this race.
Wow, there was so many stories to tell, so many places to look, and in the end it was quite literally the skin of his teeth, Kurt Stenberg. 2/10 at the line, but it was an absolutely thrilling battle. And then not to mention the battle for the minors as well. Redmond versus Rosella and Limich. Rosella just couldn't make the green pit stop work for him and get through those mid runners rather. And then the battle further back, Turmo, Dane Liccardo, Steve Burko, that was something for the ages. And man, that race had everything. That was so much fun.
I don't know how we managed to get through that one. there's a lot of stories going up and down the field. One of them is this man, so he got a drive-through penalty at precisely the wrong opportunity as well, under safety car in the pit lane, and that really scuppered any chance that he had of a good result in Brenton Foley, because he was doing so well in that race.
And he was brave too. Brave for him and Scott Nolan and Brendan Ross to take that late pit stop and try and make their way through the field. In the end, Scott Nolan was the head of that group of 3. He finished 11th, which is the same place he started in. So the bravery didn't quite pay off at the end. Maybe just a little too short a run to the line for those guys.
And I think for Will Devenish, that will be a massive opportunity lost.
Yeah.
The restart, he processed Matt Cecil at the rate that he needed to do it. And for him, the mistake at turn 3 on that opening lap after the safety car restart, it was almost game over at that point. He somehow managed to drag himself up to the back of Stenberg. Maybe he might have needed one more lap. I think Stenny's tyres were gone. I'm pretty sure he's going to confirm this for us when he gets in here. But I got a funny feeling that he knows that he got a massive free kick with those safety cars with his tyre life.
Yeah, it certainly stymied the blow for Kurt having that second safety car come out and ease the pain, but he still had to win it the hard way, and he did a very, very good job of that right at the very death. The Live Races hasn't quite updated with the final gap, but I made mention it was about 0.2 of a second at the line.
Yeah, 1.5 tenths it was actually. So
yeah.
It was Stenberg to Devenish by 1.5 tenths, and then it was another 0.5 seconds back to Tim Redmond in third place. So there's a fair bit of it was very tight margin at the end, and sort of just took a little bit of it was there. The race was there to be won. I think that's the most important thing, is that the race was there to be won. At the end of the day, it didn't happen. So,
And
I
we
guess
have
play on.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have our race winner of the second race in the booth with us tonight, Kurt Stenberg. What an incredible finish to that race. Your heart must be pumping, because ours certainly were.
Yeah, mate. What an interesting finish.
Yeah.
What an interesting race with the 2 safety cars. That's all I'm going to say.
How was your tyre life at the end there? What did you finish with?
I actually don't know. I didn't look, but it was better than you'd think. When the safety car came out, I know I started the lap with 25% left on the rear left. So, but when the safety car came out and I pitted, I didn't think I'd make it to the end from there. But turns out tyre life was better than what it was, and then the safety car, I don't know if it helped me or it hindered me, because it brought Will closer to me, because I thought I was pretty right until that safety car, and then I had Will all over me, and I knew that he was going to have much better tyres than what I had.
Yeah. What's through your mind in a situation like that when you know that you're going to be chased and you're going to be chased hard, and it's just a matter of when, not if? How do you prepare for those final frantic few laps?
Well, I don't know how you. I actually going to tell you, I didn't know what to do. But when Will made the little mistake there and ran wide and let a few cars go by, that meant I had a few laps to prepare and just take it easy and be ready for when it was going to happen. And I knew I had enough tyres that I could half push on the last couple of laps, but I was going to have to defend. So I had to defend, and that's what I did.
And you did a great job of it, taking home a second race victory tonight. Congratulations on winning what will go down as an all-time classic, Kurt Stenberg.
No worries. Thanks, guys. And we'll see you at the next one. But unbelievable race. That was very interesting.
You can say that again. The other protagonist in the story tonight, Will Devenish. Will, a great race from you in the end. Just a little bit more needed. Just take us through the race from your perspective.
Yeah, it was a race where you sort of had to make decisions on the fly. So probably 2 rounds in a row we've had to throw the strategy out the window and hope for the best. And to be honest, I don't think we could have done very much better that second race, except for that small mistake. If it wasn't for that, I think it would have been a pretty easy win. I think I had a good another 2-3 laps on those tyres. So yeah, a bit disappointing, but yeah, it was a cracking finish.
Absolutely was a cracking finish. Now, yeah, that first safety car came at a really, really awkward time for the field. When you saw Kurt go in the pits ahead of you, what were you thinking about at that time? Take us through your thought process.
Well, went to everyone in the team and like, well, he's stuffed for the rest of the race.
Oh, of course.
I knew for that first half of the race, I was driving pretty leisurely, and I was saving the tyres quite well. So I thought if I could get as long under that safety car as possible, I could do the one change and get home, which we did. It's just that second safety car came out, which kind of hurt a bit.
Yeah, and that really cracked things open at the end there. You got through Matt Cecil pretty quickly and then made that small mistake. Those frantic few laps, that battle between yourself and Cheese and Snipes and Lime Mitch, how frustrating is that to be in that position and knowing that your real target is ahead of that group?
I was more frustrated with the mistake. I probably said to the guys 6 times tonight, make sure your brakes are warm going into turn 3, and lo and behold, I didn't do that. So
oh no,
that's what happened. And then I actually had a small flat spot, which I had to drive out of the tires. So yeah, it really hurt. But look, Lime Mitch, Cheese, they're good operators. They're very hard to get past, and they were tonight. So full credit to them as well.
And in the end, full credit to you as well. Second place is still a great result, and you should be very happy with that one, Will.
Thank you.
And third place tonight, an incredible result, really, after an early drive-through penalty and some very, very old tyres. Tim Redmond, what a recovery drive from you. Congratulations.
Hey, thanks, mate. I'm honestly very surprised to be here in this room tonight after that race. What a crazy start to it. I had the most amazing start. I think you probably would have seen it on the stream. Got turned around. I was last, basically, by the second corner, third corner. So I had a lot of work to do ahead of me, and I think managed to play the safety cars right. Still had, as you said, I still had a drive through. Got very lucky with that. The second safety car, which helped out massively. But also, what I noticed was a lot of drivers weren't taking pit stops around the halfway mark. They were leaving them till a bit later under green. So massive opportunity for me to make back positions through that. So that worked in my favor tonight, and I was really stoked. Saying to the guys on chat, "Hey guys, I'm in seventh in the second safety car." And what? How the hell did you get there? Where'd you come from? You know. So, yeah, really stoked. It was hard racing from everyone tonight, especially in that second race. Coming towards the end, there was a lot of fighting, a lot of jostling for positions, and trying to get ahead. And credit to some of the guys racing around me, Luke and Lime Mitch, and obviously some of the Kiwi guys as well, who are up in probably twos and threes that they're not used to. So credit to them; they've done fairly well as well.
I can hear the adrenaline in your voice. It was really an up and down race for you. I'd forgotten about your spin at the very beginning, but pack racing, you made mention of that. That was the theme of tonight. How do you manage, attacking and defending in a pack like that? For an extended period of time, how do you actually manage that thought process and those actions as a driver?
I think for me, like defense and holding the position is more important than trying to get the guy in front, especially if they're close enough. So I very much worked on that more than anything else. It so happens that we were all pretty much on old tires, I think, sort of towards the end of the race anyway. So we're all making mistakes here and there and coming together as a pack. So really just looking for retaining the position and then looking for opportunities if they open themselves up, and they did tonight. So took advantage.
A very opportunistic move from you around the outside of Lime Mitch at the very tail end of the race. I've got to say it was such an impressive recovery drive, and yeah, it was one of the best podium finishes I've ever seen. So congratulations, Tim, and here's to more of that in the future.
I'm on it. Thanks, Foddy. Cheers, mate.
No problems. And as a special treat, I've actually dragged up. We called it the MVP of the race, or driver of the race, and definitely pass of the race. Dane Liccardo, what an incredible drive from you. At one stage, leading the race from the back of the field.
Yeah.
Man, that was some cracking stuff.
Yeah, it was finally nice to put together a race where I wasn't involved in an incident and actually positioning the car in the right spot for once.
Yeah, and that was absolutely right. Both Nether and I commented about one particular pass that you made at turn 6 around the outside of, I think it was struggling to remember, Lime Mitch, and then on the inside of Steve Warwick on the exit. That was an incredible move.
I don't even remember which move that was.
You made so
Go
many
back
of
and
them
watch it
tonight.
on this. You'll have to go back and watch it on the stream because it was.
Yeah.
I think we've already called it that it's got to be up there for the pass of the year.
Wow, alrighty. Yeah, race 2 is better than race 1. I'll give it that.
What's the plan for you going forward? How about qualifying next time? What do you reckon will happen if you do that?
Well, it'd be nice not to have a dual rear grid to begin with, but in all honesty, I thought I'd have nowhere near top 10 pace, especially starting from the back. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I went from basically last to the top 15, 16 off of the start, like by 10. I nailed the launches for once, and it just felt like everything fell into place for me tonight. And words can't explain how happy I am.
Oh, that's awesome, and I can hear the excitement in your voice. And I hope this is a real breakout moment for you, and I hope we start to see you at the front end of some grids in the future. Well done, Dave.
Thank you very much.
And Nether, I don't know what more to say. It's just such an incredible second race, that one. I'm all out of breath.
I think you called it perfectly, Flood. It's a classic. This is probably one of the classic races that will go down in ASR. We'll go back and look at this at the end of the year and go, it was probably going to be in the top 3. I thought last year the Monza fuel mileage miracle in GT3 was probably was an all-time classic, and it is. And this one's probably another one. I mean, you can't look at a race like this and see the number of passes, the 2 safety cars, the strategy going off the chain, the top lead position being caught right at the very end of the race, and just building to that crescendo, and the outcome at the end of the day. I don't think anything will probably top it this in supercars at this stage, but I'm happy to be proven wrong. That's the part that is the thing to look forward to. There's always something that'll come along and top it, but for the moment, this is definitely a classic.
Absolutely right. And I do have to agree with a big shout out and a thank you to Hans Brunswick for being away. So I got a chance to commentate on this one.
Well, I mean, he would have been here, and he would have been bouncing off the walls. So I'm sure he's looking forward to the next round, which is Barbagallo, the home track for Kurt Stenberg. So he will be looking for a good result on home soil, which he didn't unfortunately get last year. He didn't get either of the wins. So he'll be looking to put that to bed in approximately 3 weeks. And until then, we will see you next time. Please drive safely, everybody. Bye for now.